Hello and welcome to another episode of the Red Laugh Riot podcast. My name's Matt.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Benjamin. I don't know why I didn't jump in there. I always screw that up. How do I always screw that up?
It is time for our annual Oscars prediction video podcast. Not a video at all, actually. As you can tell, it's been a while since we've done one of these. In fact, I think the last time we did one of these was last year's Oscars prediction video.
Yeah.
Because we are very, very busy people. Ben is no longer in the country.
I flew away. I'm not that far. I'm only
the world.
I'm only 2 hours behind.
Hours and hours away.
Yeah.
All right. Oscars. Who's gonna do the first category?
Michael can start.
Okay, so we're just like reading them out.
Yeah, so we're going reverse alphabetical like we did last year. So we'll start with the writing for original screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
Mention all the nominees, including the writers.
All right.
And then we'll just discuss.
Cool. Discuss and predict.
Yeah.
Indeed.
How have we been doing? Who's won the predictions in the last few times?
I think I won last year.
You won last year.
Matt usually wins because Matt's so statistical based, and he knows the odds based on like all the other awards winners from like the other, the
he's looking
Guild
at
Awards
Gold
and
Derby.
stuff.
he's figuring out the Gold Derby.
I usually just vote with my heart.
Yeah, for me it's like there'll be somewhere you kind of know there's a lock, and there's other ones where you're like I just want to try. You want to will it into existence. Exactly. The fact that something else might actually win Best Picture. I can't remember if I predicted Parasite that year or not. I think I didn't. I think I probably was like, I really want it to win, but it won't. And then...
That's a good question. I don't remember either.
Yeah.
We should probably keep track of this in like a spreadsheet so we can...
I that's what I did last year.
Really?
I listened to the episode back and I made a spreadsheet, like a little table spreadsheet thing. Yeah.
I bet you wasted me, didn't you?
I think it was close-ish. I think it was me first, Michael second, and then you third. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I posted the table to our Facebook page.
Oh, okay.
I do feel like in terms of being in tune with like the Oscar voters and like what they will predict, it's definitely like Matt's on top. I'm second, and I think you just kind of like, you don't pay attention to it, so you're like, I'll vote for what I want and what I like. You know?
Exactly. I would say I've paid more attention this year than any other year, only because Dan Murrell's done some good videos on YouTube where he talks about the winners of the SAG Awards and the whatever else awards and BAFTAs and whatever. So like he kind of helps me with the prediction side of things a little bit, but I still don't pay that much attention. I mean, that's the only source of news I have on it. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think last year I predicted All Quiet on the Western Front would win because I was really gunning for that one.
That's a crazy
Everything Everywhere.
Crazy pick.
I mean,
it's a wild pick.
Fantastic film.
Oh
you
yeah, no,
agree.
I'm not
it's better than Everything Everywhere, right? You didn't even like everything that much.
I haven't seen All Quiet on the Western Front yet.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
But I'm sure
it's been a year, guys.
Everything Everywhere.
No, the problem with that film was like, for me, it was impacted so much by seeing it in a cinema, which is a rare occurrence for Netflix films. It's kind of hard sometimes to catch those ones in cinemas. So that's probably why I felt so strongly on it. Anyway. All right. That's so last year. Let's move on.
After that
I just thought we needed a preamble. I was like, we're going into this so quickly. Like, let's amble around for a little bit, you know.
Well, let's not beat around the bush too much and be just like the Oscars ceremony itself, which spends like 5 minutes in between awards talking about things that are completely unrelated and doing
Who's hosting
dances
this
and
year?
stuff. No idea. Couldn't give a
what's
shit,
his
really.
name? The talk show host.
Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh, again?
The old reliable.
I guess I couldn't get Chris Rock again, but like still.
Old Jimmy
Why
Kimmel.
don't they get Conan to do it? Conan would be so good.
Conan probably says
Conan
no.
would.
He doesn't get. Yeah, he wouldn't care.
They'd be like, "Hey, do you want to host the Oscars?" And then Conan would be like, "Fuck off."
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I reckon Margot Robbie, if she wasn't nominated for stuff, she'd be a good host. She'd be funny. I did just watch Barbie though, so.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we will. Anyway.
All right, what are the nominees?
So the nominees for original screenplay are Justine Triet and Arthur Harari for Anatomy of a Fall, David Hemmingson for The Holdovers, Bradley Cooper and Josh Singer for Maestro, Sammy Birch and Alex Mechanic for May December, and Celine Song for Past Lives.
So I've seen all of these films except for May December. So I can't really say much about May December since I haven't seen it.
This one's really hard for me because I love Past Lives and The Holdovers a lot.
Yeah.
I think Holdovers was like really surprising, just like how much strength it had in its script specifically, and in its like 2 lead performances as well. But like I feel like when you look at what The Holdovers is as like, just if you hear the synopsis of a movie, like sounds like a pretty normal like stay at home kind of Christmas movie. And then when you watch it, like it kind of, I don't know, it just surprised me with how much character it had.
It's kind of like the opposite of like your flashy movie, right?
Yeah.
In regards to the whole, you know what I mean? Like it's quite simple, and since it's simple, it's easy. Like, well, not easy, but like easy to like execute. Like I feel like when I think of when I think of my favorite films, and I've always said this, I'm a big fan of like, I don't know if it's a proper term, but I call them dialogue-driven films, in that there's not much happens plot-wise in the actual movie itself.
Sure.
The best example of that, which I always bring up, is the Before trilogy, especially the first one. Literally the entire plot of that movie is boy meets girl on train, boy asks girl to go and walk around the city. That's it. That's all that happens. Yeah. But like, I absolutely love that movie so much. I think the only thing I like that bothers me about The Holdovers is like the structure of it feels a little strange, and just how like it starts off and you just assume that all the boys are going to stay there, and then like maybe only like halfway through the movie the rest of them get taken away. So, which is good for the story in terms of the main story is between those other 2 characters or 3 characters that are remain behind. But then it just made me feel like, what was the point in having the other kids there for like half an hour just chilling out? Like, I don't know. I guess they had to do it somehow, but that just felt a little bit wonky to me. But other than that, like I thought it was really, really cool. However, I love Past Lives, and I think I would rate it higher. And yeah, the emotional impact of Past Lives is pretty hard to top, at least in this category anyway. Which ones have you seen, Gami?
So I'm real low on this category. I've seen 2 in this category, which are Anatomy of a Fall and May December. I will say it's cool that there's like a couple movies in here that share like a lot of similar DNA, I think, with Anatomy of a Fall and May December. They're both about, at least in my view, like people in denial, and also people who are like completely unknowable. I find that really interesting, because May December, like in effect, is about this, this actress who's trying to get to know this woman and trying to like figure her out and sort of get under her skin and be like, how can I portray you? And I think what she ends up being like confronted with is a 3-dimensional human being, and I don't think she expected that. And I think similarly with like Anatomy of a Fall, you're confronted with like a murder mystery, which really should only have one answer. But the more you watch and the more the kind of like things start to like unfold and take shape, you realize that there isn't really any perfect answer to the scenario, no matter what. No matter whether she did it or she didn't do it, whatever, it almost doesn't matter. The point is that you don't know, because she is so complicated.
Yeah,
and I love that.
I kind of picked up on that vibe as well with Anatomy as well. Because I found it really interesting that they sort of, it feels like towards, in regards to the end of the movie, is they don't answer the question of did she actually do it, and I thought that was really smart. And also like, you said something else which I just picked up on, but I can't remember now.
I don't know,
because my memory's bad.
Just random.
But like, 100% agree with that.
I think I just have a soft spot for courtroom dramas. So I enjoyed that aspect a lot. But like, I don't know, coming out of it, I was just like, damn, good movie. But I mean, to me, doesn't stand out and doesn't really have that strong emotional connection for me. I think the boy and the scenes with the dog, especially, were really were really good. But like, yeah, overall, like it doesn't feel as impactful. It just feels like a really good story that's been told. But like both Holdovers for me, and like May December, I think has some very interesting things to say. But for me, Holdovers and Past Lives are the ones that connect more closely emotionally, and maybe it's like being relevant. Should that define whether or not it's a more well-written movie? I don't know if you can kind of say it that way, but you can certainly say that I prefer that. But whether or not you would say, well, what then is more likely to win? Because I'm gunning for Past Lives only because I feel like it was poorly like underrepresented overall, and I want it to win something. It's obviously not going to win Best Picture,
right?
Well, I certainly don't think so. Even though a lot of people kind of, when it first came out in like July at like festivals and stuff, people were talking about it. People were talking about it like a lot, but then all these other movies came out since then. I want it to win. I feel like there's a strong chance Anatomy of a Fall wins, though. I want to hear your predictions before I make my final prediction, though.
All right, who wants to start? Should I go?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I'm between Anatomy and Holdovers. I don't think the other three movies have any chance of winning this category. Maybe Past Lives will, simply because of the underrepresentation and the fact that like there will be a lot of people coming out in force being like, where can we give this an award? Yeah. You know? So that's where it might win. But I'd say like if we're going more on the straight and narrow route, I would imagine that I would say Holdovers will take it. I would love to see Anatomy take it, and I think Anatomy is an amazing screenplay with some of the best dialogue I've ever heard. But I think Holdovers is like a screenplay movie. You know, I think people will look at that and be like, "Yeah, that's a script right there," because it's so like I that's my feeling. Like, and that's only based on what I kind of know about it. You know, obviously, like I'm predicting it without having seen it, but I will say Holdovers.
Interesting. Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to Anatomy of a Fall, and that's because I've looked at
the odds.
At the odds, and also what it's won other awards it's won. So it won both the Golden Globe and it also won the BAFTA.
It won the Golden Globe.
Yeah.
Shit. All right, I'm holding to my prediction anyway.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tip Anatomy of a Fall there.
Has the Golden Globe winner for Best Screenplay ever influenced or like been a sign that it would also win for Oscars? I just feel like
the Golden Globes less so, but I think the BAFTAs is a more stronger indicator of what will win. I believe I could be wrong though.
The thing is with the Golden Globes is usually they're more likely to give awards to the more conventional things. I think like recently you kind of see the Oscars going for big swings more often. So if the Golden Globes is giving it to an international feature, I feel like, you know.
Right, I see. And Golden Globes has separated in original and adapted?
No, just screenplay.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, it's just one category?
Yeah.
Who are the nominees? Sorry, tangent.
For the Golden Globes?
Yeah, for the Golden Globe.
Past Lives, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Barbie.
Oh man, a whole different.
And Poor Things.
Okay.
Wow.
Anyway,
so
sorry.
All different noms except Anatomy. Then that's interesting. I feel like Anatomy is. You know how people sometimes say best editing is getting given to most editing, and Anatomy to me is like the most writing.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Okay. Yeah.
Like it's just like because it relies so much on the script, right? Whereas in Past Lives, there's also a lot of visual storytelling and performances that really bring it out. So if you're saying which of these was like in which of these films was the script like the most important part, you could probably say Anatomy, and I'd probably agree. But yeah, I don't know. Because of you guys are voting different, I'm gonna push with Past Lives. I'm gonna predict Past Lives.
I was about to change my prediction to Anatomy of a Fall, just because I want to win. Like I want to win. But no, I'll stick with Holdovers just for fun. Even though I'm pretty sure Anatomy's going to win.
Matt, will you take away adapted?
All right. So adapted screenplay, we have American Fiction, written for the screen by Cord Jefferson. Barbie, written by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach. That's not how it's pronounced, but we're going with it anyway. Oppenheimer, written for the screen by Christopher Nolan.
Or Baumbach.
Poor Things, written by Tony McNamara. And The Zone of Interest, written by Jonathan Glazer.
So, with Oppenheimer, is it based on something, or is it just because it's based on history they have to call it adapted, or was there actually like a story?
Yeah, it's based off a book, I believe.
Oh, great. Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's based off of a book.
And then with Barbie, because it's based on an existing IP, like a toy, they have to call it adapted, even though there's no existing written material for it.
Yeah. Because originally it was going to be original A, and then they were like, actually, let's make it adapted.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, can we just talk about Killers of the Flower Moon not being nominated in this category?
Yeah.
So the fact that didn't get nominated in screenplay at all is astounding. Like, it got nominated at the Globes.
Yeah.
And it's a big movie with a huge script, a lot going on, a lot of characters, a lot of arcs, and it's nowhere to be found.
Which one of the nominees though would you switch out for it?
Barbie, no question. I'd get rid of Barbie. Although I haven't seen American Fiction, but
I haven't seen American Fiction, but it doesn't seem to be setting the world on fire, and it seems like everyone has very similar feelings about American Fiction.
Yeah.
So I would take that out, or Barbie. I don't know.
I've seen all of them.
I've seen 4 of these. Have you seen all of them, Skippy?
I've seen.
Oh
all
no, you haven't seen
American Fiction.
So you've seen American Fiction?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Ooh, cool. Okay.
Of the BP noms, I just haven't seen American Fiction and Maestro.
There's like 4 I haven't seen, I think. There's quite a lot of the BP noms I haven't seen.
I've seen all of the Best Fiction noms.
Good boy.
Okay, Matt wins that race. Damn,
I
you're winning everything.
not done my homework.
I literally made like a, what's the word? Like a full-on effort to like watch stuff, because like I think it's the first year ever I've watched them all. Like usually I've watched
That's cool.
4.
Yeah.
I think last year I had seen them all, but that was very rare for me.
All right, Ben, do you want to kick off your thoughts?
I think out of these, the standouts clearly Zone of Interest and Oppenheimer. I would say I think Oppenheimer is much more likely to win. Oppenheimer, anything that Oppenheimer is in competition for, it's just got the edge just because of it being Oppenheimer. It was so big. Everyone has seen it. So everyone at least has a say. Because I imagine there are plenty of people who are eligible to vote that might not have seen Zone of Interest or American Fiction or something, right? Like there will be scenarios where people just have to choose the one they saw. And yeah, Oppenheimer is just like a powerhouse. And a lot of it is in the script. It's very well structured script, I think, to keep you in tow with its editing as well. Obviously keeps you attentive and engaged in the story despite everything that happens. Although I personally didn't like enjoy the black and white sections. And there's obviously very distinct between them. It's because I'm more of a person who connects with people emotionally, and I like seeing people's thoughts, and the way they connected with Oppenheimer as a character in his kind of point of view of side of things, I think was really well done, and I really enjoyed that stuff. I didn't really like the other stuff as much, even though I said I like courtroom dramas. I feel like that kind of stuff didn't work for me because it didn't really explain, or I didn't feel like I understood what anyone was even talking about in most of those scenes. But I think there's obviously a lot more people out there that have a better grip on it than I do. And I think overall, a lot of people would, really favor that one. And I think that's the one to win.
Matt, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I'm just looking at the odds. Because I'm the stats person.
Yeah.
So Oppenheimer is the favorite, followed by Poor Things, then American Fiction, then Barbie, then The Zone of Interest.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really have much to add to what Ben was saying there. I think that Oppenheimer kind of has the what's the word? Momentum, that's the word. Behind it. And so I think it's going to be just really difficult to beat. The only one I could like potentially see upsetting things would potentially be Poor Things. And that's not just based off the odds as well. I think that's sort of the one there that I think is kind of the most interesting in terms of the story that it was telling. So yeah, I mean, I would say Oppenheimer, but Poor Things as a alternative pick, if you will.
I think it's a pretty like interesting category. I think there's a lot of different screenplays going on here. And I think Oppenheimer's obviously winning it. I don't really see anything else winning best screenplay here. I think it's a win for ambition. I think it's a win for the fact that it's being called Christopher Nolan's talkiest movie, people talking in rooms. It's like there's a lot of stuff about specifically the writing in this movie and the talking in this movie. That's been the theme of Oppenheimer, you know, is that it's a really talky film. So I think it's got it in the bag. On a personal level, I don't think it was a great screenplay. I think it was a jumbled screenplay, and I think the fact that the third act is the best act is kind of good and bad. Like I really love the last part of Oppenheimer, but there's lots of bullshit to get there. There's a lot of what I'd call shoddy scripting to get there. I think having just seen Barbie, it ruined its chances at winning this about 2/3 of the way in. That monologue sucked, and the bit afterwards sucked, where it just became like
America Ferrera's monologue.
America Ferrera's monologue was bad.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that was bad. And then after that, there was a bit where like Barbie says like, "Yeah, let's do it," and then like the kid gets up and is like, "Yeah, white savior Barbie," and I paused the movie and I stopped watching it for maybe like 40 minutes. Because I was just cringing. Like, I was like, I can't do this. And then it kept going, and because after that, it then started to like go into this like really, really, really like low hanging fruit, boring ass jokes about like, well, you just got to sit there and watch The Godfather, and I'm like sitting there like, how have any of these Ken people even seen The Godfather in the first place? They don't know The Godfather exists. What are you talking about? You're just like trying to shove in these like jokes that you see everywhere on the internet because you think they're funny, but you're not even like paying attention to the internal logic of your own fucking movie when you do it. It's just frustrating. They haven't seen The Godfather.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
That's fair.
Anyway, it got okay. It got better near the end. And we'll talk about it. I'll talk about it more later because there's a few directing choices that I didn't like, and that I did like. But the screenplay,
well, good thing it wasn't nominated for best directing then. So
true. We can talk about best picture, I guess. Rambling a bit, but anyway, yeah. Poor Things, great screenplay, very atypical screenplay with a really interesting structure. If I was to pick a winner, it would probably be that. I think Zone of Interest is an amazing screenplay, but not for the dialogue, and that's what people focus on when they're looking at screenplay, not necessarily like structure. So Oppenheimer would be the pick. I think it's definitely winning.
I think like the idea of the Zone of Interest is the most interesting part about the screenplay. And as you said, like I don't know if I was that captivated by the ins and outs of it, but the idea of it and definitely the way it kind of put everything in perspective at the end, I think is the most interesting thing about that movie. And then with what you were saying about Oppenheimer, I think it's a really impressive that you think the last third of it is the best part of it. And I probably partially agree with you. It's got some of the best moments in it at the best third, but that's saying a lot considering the entire first like 2/3 of the film is build up to the atom bomb test, which is like really intense the entire time.
Longest
and is what most
of
the people and that's what most people are invested in. So it's actually quite a compliment to the film to say you did it even better after the main event of the film was still the best part of the movie. I feel like that's still quite a compliment to the script.
I mean, the last third of the script was fantastic, but I think that's just because you're now taken out of the gimmick a little bit, which is this kind of, we're going to keep the pace up and we're going to go, you know, all the way there, you know, Florence Pugh be damned. And then, but once it settles, you're kind of left with the actual feeling of what happened. The excitement is gone, which is, you know, a very interesting way to structure your movie. I like that, you know, you're building up to it. And then you realize once the bomb's gone off, there are a lot of ramifications here, especially for him. And the way that he kind of like punishes himself in that last third of the movie by going through with this kind of broken trial against him. And, people are asking him, why are you doing this? And he's like, I don't know. And you can tell that he's kind of got this like mindset that maybe he deserves it. So it's an interesting structure, but I just think the first 2/3, I don't know.
I think I struggled a little bit with Oppenheimer only because, and this is a stupid reason, but the last hour I really needed to pee. And obviously, as a result of that, I wasn't paying too much attention to the movie.
You should have just pissed yourself and kept watching.
Because I needed to go. But I didn't want to leave.
I mean, did you know it was going to be 3 hours long?
Yeah.
Because there's sometimes where I'm like, I feel like the movies could end in the next 10 minutes, so I don't want to leave now. Yeah. But if you know it's got an hour left to go, I would just
but I didn't want to miss. I didn't want to miss anything.
It's worth missing. It's worth missing 5 minutes. Instead of missing the last hour, which you basically did because you weren't paying attention to the last hour.
But you just sort of wait until the next big thing happens, and then you.
Then you duck off.
Yeah, if you can feel the pace, of it. The thing is with Oppenheimer is that it's constantly moving. There's not really that many down moments where you have.
It demands a lot of attention.
I mean, I feel like the IMAX theaters should have just installed like pee cups.
I agree.
I should have
built-in catheters.
I should have just pissed into my lemonade bottle that I had next.
You should have.
That's what I should have
done. Don't do that. But
that's how you get kicked out of a movie theater.
So
did we all say did we all just predicting Oppenheimer then?
Yeah, we literally all predicted Oppenheimer.
Seems fair. All right, let's move on then to Best Visual Effects, or as they call it at the Academy, Achievement in Visual Effects.
Online, it just says Visual Effects.
You achieved something. Online, it says that, but when they read it out at the ceremony, I'm pretty sure they say like achievement.
Okay.
That just makes it sound like a primary school like award. Like just say Best Visual Effects.
The certificate in visual effects.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So we have the first nominee, the creator, and I assume the names are like visual effects supervisors. So Jay Cooper, Ian Conley, Andrew Roberts, Neil Corbould, Godzilla -1. Please forgive me for not saying your names very well, but we've got Takashi Yamazaki, Kyoko Shibuya, Masaki Takahashi, and Tatsuji Nojima. I did my best.
You did great.
We've got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Steven Suriti, Alex Weisbrot, Guy Williams, and Theo Bilek. That's so funny. There's someone named Guy Williams, just like in the middle of visual effects. Which I mean, in theory, it's possible because I think probably I'm guessing Weta Digital had something to do with some of these visual effects. Maybe Guy Williams has a job on the side that he hasn't told anyone about. He's just waiting to walk on stage, get his Oscar, and then that'll start off his comedy career because he'll just do a bit on stage when he gets the Oscar.
Hell yeah.
Next, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. That should get the award for the worst movie title of the year.
Yeah.
That's Alex Woodkay, Simone Coco, Jeff Sutherland, and Neil Corbould. Neil Corbould is credited in 2 of these films. No, 3. He's in the next one as well.
Whoa.
Napoleon, Charlie Henley, Luke Ewan, Martin Fenway, Simone Coco again, and Nick Corbould. So
I wonder if he's breaking any records here.
Very good. Sorry, not Nick. Neil. Sorry, Neil Corbould. Neil's got a very strong chance of winning an Oscar this year.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's ever happened.
I don't know.
3 in the same category.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. Maybe Jimmy Kimmel will make a joke about it. Actually, he probably won't because it's visual effects.
I feel like they don't read out the names, do they?
Do they even do it on the ceremony?
Yeah, I don't know. They might do it on the ad break.
They're going to do like Game Awards style where they just read them all out in a row really quickly?
Probably. Wouldn't surprise me, honestly.
I thought that last year they put them back in the ceremony. You know how there was a year where they did editing and cinematography outside, like before the ceremony or some shit? I'm pretty sure I thought they put it all back.
Is that the same year they did Achievement in Popular Film or whatever the fuck it was?
They didn't. They never did that.
They never did that?
They do it in the Golden Globes.
Nah, they cancelled plan. They proposed it, and then everyone was like, "That's stupid."
Okay.
So they didn't do it.
All right.
Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, visual effects. Okay, I haven't seen Napoleon or The Creator, so hard to judge those. I wanted to point out Dead Reckoning because one of the most famous shots in this movie is obviously the stunt where he goes over the cliff on a motorbike.
Yeah.
Now, what's really interesting is I saw this featurette a couple times in IMAX where they kind of displayed like behind the scenes on the filming of this stunt. And in that, it looked really like a really exciting stunt. But a big part of it is that they have this giant white ramp that he drives up on this mountain and then jumps off the ramp. Obviously, in visual effects, they painted that out to make it look like he's just driving on the mountain. And when I saw it in the film, I'm like, this looks kind of bad. To me, it made the stunt look worse because it was so clear to me. Maybe it's only because I'd seen the original footage, but it was very clear to me how fake it looked. It just didn't look real. And so it really kind of took me out of that, what should have been the most exciting moment in the film, and made it just feel kind of meh. And I've heard some other people saying similar things. So that's only one visual effects shot in the film. But to me, that kind of stuck out. I don't know. I mean, it looked like a good enough job. Like if you just showed the picture to someone, they wouldn't be able to tell you that there was no mountain there. But yeah, I know it just kind of stuck out to me. So that's why I thought that was interesting. Or throughout the rest of it, I can't think off the top of my head any notable visual effects sequences. I think it would be honestly crazy if Godzilla Minus One does not win this. Because phenomenal film in general and like visual effects and everything. Like just really, really good. It all looks really realistic as well. Like even the giant Godzilla and everything, the flame breaths and all of that.
Matt's doing some Googling.
That's my pick.
Are you looking at the odds?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go. So I have not seen any of these movies.
Same.
Because I don't watch these kind of movies very often. I would say, if I were a betting man, I would say it's between Guardians of the Galaxy and Godzilla Minus One. I don't know. I haven't seen the odds. That's my guess. I'd say it's between those two.
I would agree that those are probably the front runners. Any Marvel movie is going to be one of the front runners for visual effects. I don't really see Mission Impossible doing it. I don't feel like it's the kind of movie that's known for visual effects, even though they would use quite a lot of it. I feel like Napoleon, I'm sure, has a lot, and I'm sure it's appreciated for it, but I don't know. I don't think that movie's got any kind of groundswell. I don't think that movie's going to be performing in any of these categories, really. I think that's very much just like a courtesy pick for Ridley. I know it's it's a big passion project for him and stuff, but I don't see it going anywhere. The Creator seems like a wet fart. Like I don't think it's going to be very memorable for a lot of people in the same way that the other two films will be. Yeah, like in terms of general memory, I would agree. But I have heard that visual effects are one of the best things about The Creator. When you take into account how low budget it is relative to all these other movies, like especially like relative to Marvel movies and Star Wars and stuff, people say like really, really they've done a really, really good job.
Yeah.
I can see a surprise win happening for it, but overall I feel like most people don't care enough about the movie. And I was about to say on Napoleon, like it feels unlikely that a historical movie would win visual effects because it's not obvious, I guess, how much visual effects it has. But then 1917 did win best visual effects, so maybe they do see that kind of thing. I guess they do.
I'm sure they do. I just don't see it happening. Yeah. I don't know. For me, I would say I think it's going to be Godzilla, simply because that movie had a really nice moment. And I feel like none of these other movies had that kind of moment where it was the movie that everybody was talking about. And I feel like it's just one of those things where everyone's going to look at this and be like, this is our chance to give it something. And I think a lot of people will appreciate it for that, especially people who are in the VFX field too. So I'm going to pick it as well.
So I'm going Godzilla as well. Based on the off odds, and also just from like,
what if you just don't look at the odds?
Yeah.
No, you can do what you want.
No, he can do it how he wants.
Yeah,
That's
do it how
fair.
you want.
Go see Godzilla. Well, man, I assume it's not still in theaters, but
no,
if it was, or if it had another release, if it just came out again because it's good enough, or if you just want to watch it at home, I'm sure it's not that bad to watch at home, but ideally you want boofy sound for it. I'd say it would be good. Speaking of,
okay, next up is sound. There's a lot of names here. Do I have to read them all? I feel like I'll just read the titles.
If you don't want to, you don't have to.
Okay, the sound nominees.
If you don't want to give credit to the people that spent years of their lives working on these movies.
The nominees for sound are The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. So it won't be Maestro. I don't really understand. I haven't seen it, but I don't understand why it's nominated for sound. That seems like a weird pick. I don't get it.
Is it quite a musical film? Is there a lot of music and sound mixing required for that?
I guess that counts. Yeah, but I mean, every movie has
because they combine sound mixing and whatever the other sound categories were called. So
I guess it's like live music performance, perhaps.
Yeah,
maybe that's something.
Yeah.
The Creator will not win. I just don't see it happening. Dead Reckoning's got a chance. Oppenheimer's winning. And I think Zone of Interest, I would love to see Zone of Interest win. I think, it uses sound in a way that's interesting. It uses sound in a way that's a lot more subtle, I think, than they make it sound. Like when you hear people talking about Zone of Interest, one of the first things they bring up is the sound design. It's quiet. It's not in your face, like, oh my God. It's more about these little things that are happening in the background that you're hearing. And sometimes you don't even necessarily know what they are, which is quite cool. Sometimes you can hear a gunshot.
Yeah.
But sometimes you hear a yell and you don't know what that yell was. And it's left up to you to figure that out, And I mean, I don't really know. Like, I guess the scoring doesn't really count as part of sound as like a whole thing. I would have loved, does this get an original score nomination?
No, it does not.
No, it doesn't. Okay, well, I'm just going to talk about it very quickly now, because I'll probably forget by the time we get to score. But the way that this movie uses music and uses like tiny intermittent bits of music throughout is fantastic. The way that it opens up on a black screen and you have to sit there and let it happen, and it like transports you through it, and then you hear the birds and the the bugs and everything coming in. And that river, which comes back in a horrible way later on in the movie.
That's what annoyed me about Zone of Interest, was the black screen for like 2 minutes. And I was like, I got a message. Start the movie.
I got a message from my friend last night, and they didn't even say what the movie was, but I told them to watch it at some point, very recently. And they just mentioned that they just said, "Is my copy broken? The screen has been black for like 5 minutes." And I'm like, "No, it's an overture. Just like sit there. It's fine."
That's, I think, one of the best things about seeing it in a theater.
Yeah.
Is, it's pretty unlikely that the theater has made a mistake. And I feel like an overture, generally speaking, works a lot better when you're in a theater than just like watching on TV at home.
Yeah. But I don't know. Like it's not even just the sounds of the gunfire. It's not even just like the screaming, or the sounds of like the buses and the trains coming by. It's also this kind of placid environment that they're creating with birds chirping and the river flowing. It's this whole like environment that they're really creating, which sets up the dichotomy pretty much instantly. And I really like that. But I don't think it's winning. I think Oppenheimer's winning. It's so in your face with the sound. And there's such an obvious moment of sound and lack of sound when the Trinity test happens and you get the silence, and it's just like this moment where like the tension is pulled to an absolute height, and it's very basic, it's very normal. A lot of movies do it, but it works. So I think that's going to take the cake.
Yeah, even like Godzilla had a similar kind of moment in that you could say. Yes, it's interesting that you say it is basic, because it's a pretty basic way of telling that kind of story when there's a big impact or something like that. Whereas, as you was describing, the Zone of Interest is much more subtle, and I feel like the Zone of Interest uses sound to tell the story a lot more clearly than I guess most people would think about. But it's like you learn what the story is through what you're hearing. Whereas most other movies, including Oppenheimer, the sound is just supplementary. It's obviously showing you what is happening. And I know with score and stuff that can add a lot, but I guess if you don't take into account the score as well, Oppenheimer and Mission Impossible have really good sound that show you the sound of the things that are happening on screen. But that's all mostly part of the visual storytelling element as well. Whereas you could listen to Zone of Interest without seeing it, and that could tell the entire story. Right. Whereas I don't know if you could do the same with Oppenheimer. And for me, that's what makes the Zone of Interest the most actually impressive when you just think about the sound. And a lot of it is due to what you were just saying about the way you described all the details of it. And I think you've convinced me I'm going to vote for Zone of Interest.
Yo! Love it.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with what you guys have been saying. Oppenheimer is very much the more obvious pick.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely got its nod there for the Trinity test. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
That sort of, the point in the movie of why, of why it's got on that nod. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think the Zone of Interest did do its sound design really well. In fact, in terms of because the whole point of it, right, of the Zone of Interest is it's like, there's this family and they're living in their house, and right next door is arguably one of, if not the worst thing to have ever happened in human history is literally happening right next door.
Yeah, as they're building a family and a garden.
And it's the whole concept of the film is that. And it's sound design that makes that point, come across. It is that it's, you've got your kids playing in the garden, and then every so often you just hear a gunshot. Yeah. And so it's just that sound design of that portrays that entire point of the movie.
Yes, part of the normal background noise of the day.
Yeah. But it's
which is just insane.
Yeah.
On that, because I tend to not like learning about movies before I watch them. I literally did not know this movie was about Auschwitz.
Oh,
that's
really?
Interesting.
And so that's how I found out. Was I heard the screaming, and then I saw the walls and stuff. But I picked it up, and it was and a lot of it came to me through the sound of hearing. Oh, this is happening right next door. Oh, and then they had the scene talking about the. How they talk about moving? They don't say cargo. They said some kind of word that very dehumanizing word of
the pieces.
Pieces.
Yeah.
It was something. When they're talking about the furnaces.
Oh, they might have said load.
Yes, load. That's what it was. That's what it was.
Yeah.
We'll bring in the next load. Yeah, that's one of the most, I guess, terrifying. That's the whole terrifying side of the story is a lot of the way they talk about it. Obviously, we're in the sound category, but and yeah, in terms of as I was saying, a lot of basically me hearing all of that is what tuned me in on what the story even was.
Yeah.
So that was very effective in that way.
Oh yeah.
So it sounds like we all have the same pick of Oppenheimer as our head pick, and then our heart pick as being the Zone of Interest.
Well, I'm officially predicting Zone.
Oh, okay, never mind.
So,
sorry.
I think you two have officially picked Oppenheimer.
I've
right?
officially picked Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I'm tipping Oppenheimer.
But my heart obviously goes to Zone.
Yeah.
Very, very much so.
Yeah. I just feel I mean, you're probably right. It's more likely to give it to Oppenheimer, but I this is similar to Parasite or Western Front. These are the kind of films where I really want the Academy to improve in what they're voting for and vote for things that actually are the best in that individual category. And sometimes they do, Parasite did win. So there are cases where I think they do truly see the value. And I'm just pulling that they are seeing the value in Zone of Interest. I feel it's had a lot of conversation since it came out.
People do talk about
so it is in everyone's mind. And I think the thing that people might think is they look through the list. Oh yeah, good sound, explosion, blah blah. Oh, Zone of Interest. What was the sound? Oh yeah, and then they're going to think about it. They're going to think about what they heard in that movie.
Yeah,
and they'll be like, you know what, you're right. It did have good sound, and So I'm hoping that they kind of see it that way. So that's why I'm predicting it.
Cool.
Fair enough. All right.
You know, I came into this thinking I was going to predict Oppenheimer, and then you convinced me, and I kind of convinced myself when I was talking about it.
I mean, I have my own reasons. Like, I feel like because at least with the technical awards, I believe it's like mostly voted for by sound designers.
Yeah.
And for me, I think sound designers like by trade would look at Oppenheimer and be like, that's what we do, you know, like they would really, really, really vibe that shit. But I
that's fair.
I think going with the heart pick is good. It's good to have a bold pick here and there, I think.
So next up we have production design. The nominees are Barbie, production design by Sarah Greenwood, set decoration by Katie Spencer, Killers of the Flower Moon, production design by Jack Fisk, set decoration Adam Willis, Napoleon, production design Arthur Max, set decoration Ali Griff, Oppenheimer, production design Ruth Dijon, set decoration Claire Kaufman, Poor Things, production design James Price and Shauna Heath, set decoration Zuza Mihalik. I'm sure I mispronounced the hell out of most of those names. Okay, let's see. Haven't seen Napoleon, so cannot comment on that one. Barbie, I loved the production design of Barbie. They literally made the color pink of paint have a worldwide shortage, which I think is hilarious.
Really?
That's so crazy.
Poor Things, I was really impressed with its production design, but I don't know if that was also as a result of its cinematography as well. Like in terms of how like they had some of those stuff where it was kind of shot and it was looked like it was like a fisheye lens.
Yeah, and there'll be visual effects as well
at times,
all sorts of things.
They did like the way like the tilt shift to make it look like little miniature models and stuff.
Yeah. I'm like, I can't really remember much production design for Killers, to be honest.
It's very like period.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like I'm not like, oh, yo, the production design of Killer. You know what I mean? Like,
no, agreed.
And then,
I mean, like all Killers, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, they're all in that vein of like it's period piece.
Yeah,
there's gonna be good production design, and that's why it's being recognized in nomination because they sold you that they're in that world.
Yeah.
But both for me, Poor Things and Barbie step it up a notch in creating new worlds. That are fully believable that you kind of are experiencing someone's journey in that world, which I think are both really well done.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Oppenheimer, to be fair, does have the whole like town that they built.
I mean, yeah, they built a town. Barbie also built a town.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Probably much more creative and new town. But I mean, there's obviously, it's hard to judge brand new pieces of art versus a recreation of a historical place.
Yeah.
Both have
I don't know
merit.
how accurate.
Yeah,
exactly. But like, I don't know if it's like historically accurate or anything, if that makes a difference. But like, I'm sure it's good and it's great that they built the town. But yeah, most of these films probably built massive sets just as big.
Yeah.
So for you guys, is it pretty much it's between Barbie and Poor Things, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
there's definitely between those. I'm gonna vote Barbie because I think kind of along the lines of what you were saying, Poor Things really emphasizes its production design through the camera lens. So maybe it kind of makes it more in your face, whereas Barbie, it's like through and through. At least in Barbie land, all of what you're seeing, is like very intricately and originally designed. Kind of stuff. So I feel like that's easily going to win. I feel like it's just the most impressive like feature of production design. It's probably one of the best ways to, because I think part of these awards is like you also want to tell the public what is it that filmmakers do. This is what production designers do, and this is a really good way of showing that off. So that's why I think Barbie will win.
Yeah, in the same boat. I think Poor Things has phenomenal production design a lot of the way through in terms of like when you're looking at each individual frame and like what has been put there and put in each scene and dressed and everything the way like it's amazing. I think the costumes do a lot though.
Yeah.
Like, I think the costumes are a big part. And I think that in a way, Poor Things production design, as much as I love the movie, especially visually, it's a little bit numbing, maybe. Like, you kind of get used to it. You get used to the way that the production design is done. With Barbie, I felt like it kept stepping it up for me. Like, I thought I was going to be like, you know, you spend 5 minutes in the world and you've seen it. But it felt to me like the production design kept getting more interesting and better as the movie went on. And for me, that gives it like an edge. I also think it probably just simply has the best production design out of these 5. I think it's like easily the high point of the movie. The colors are amazing. The exact kind of hues and tints that they used are just amazing. The way that they got like that perfect toy pink, you know, on that slide that she goes down is just holy shit. The one thing that does piss me off is the toaster. So the fucking, you go through this whole opening sequence. And I don't know, like, I don't think it was a product placement. I think they just liked this toaster, but it still felt strange. You go through the whole opening sequence where she, like, gets out of bed and she does, like, her makeup in this, like, fake mirror that's not real. And she, like, opens up the fridge and then she goes to the fridge, she opens it up, it's fake. She, like, pulls out the kind of milk carton that looks like a toy milk carton, all this stuff. And then there's, like, then the camera just pans to the right and there's a Smeg toaster that's pink. Like, it's a normal toaster with normal waffle in it that comes out onto her plate. And I'm like, why didn't you go the full way? You just wanted to show off this, like, to me, it just felt like product placement, even when I don't know if it is product placement. I also felt the same way about the car they used.
Do they actually eat food in Barbie Land?
I don't know if she actually eats the waffle, but it's like on her plate. I think she probably fake eats the waffle. I wish that it was also a toy toaster, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah. I also think they used the wrong kind of car.
I don't think that's going to make it lose production design. But
yeah, I don't know.
What was the car, sorry?
Oh, the car thing just pisses me off because it was like such obvious product placement. They were using like Chevrolet everything.
Right.
And there were so many like car commercial shots of this car where it's like low angle from behind and you're like seeing the whole like phew, as it's like going along the way. I was like, ugh. Like, this feels like it's out of a totally different movie. But I guess the point is that it's supposed to be a normal person's car and not the Barbie car, you know? I'm talking specifically about America Ferrera's car.
Oh, right,
yeah.
Okay. I don't remember.
But yeah, anyway, rambling aside, I think Barbie's going to win. I think it deserves to win.
Yep, in the same boat. Like, it's definitely the production design that's, you know, one of the highlights of the film is, you know, they've put all this effort into creating, you know, Barbie Land. Yeah, that's why it's going to win, I reckon.
Nice. Well, moving on then. We will pick Barbie, yeah. So yeah, moving on then. I need to use the bathroom, so I'm going to take a quick break. I want you guys to debate during this whether or not we should even do the original song, because, like, is it even worth talking about? Only because I've only seen Barbie and Killers, and I don't really know how to judge music that well. But you guys decide if we should or shouldn't. I'm going to mute myself and be back in a minute.
Okay, sure. I'm Just Ken is going to win. I don't think any of these other ones. I guess the Billie Eilish could win. But I think I'm Just Ken's winning. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm crazy. Is what was I made for the? Anyway, sorry. We're getting into predictions now, but I feel like it's probably between two.
Yeah, I feel like it's between the two Barbie songs, right?
Like, I don't know.
Is I'm Just Ken though more of like a meme pick as opposed to like an actual legitimate pick?
Everyone, but the Oscars love memes.
True.
I don't know. I feel like we could still talk about it, but I mean, I don't really mind either way. I'm fine.
I mean, I feel like we're just talking about it now anyway.
Yeah, we are kind of just talking about it right now. Yeah, I'd say. So
you'd probably tip.
Yeah,
I'm Just Ken.
We'll just get Ben's prediction back when he comes back.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tip I'm Just Ken.
Okay.
I think what was I made for? Is that better on the odds right now?
Yeah, I think so. Also, what was I made for? Won the Golden Globe.
Shit. Okay, maybe I'm completely wrong. I'm Just Ken.
Though I feel like it would be hilarious if
I would just love to see it.
Yeah. What?
Okay, maybe I'm right.
Are they going to perform it? I feel like he's performing it, right?
Oh, gotta be.
That'd be the highlight of the entire show.
Yeah, it would be.
Because it's not going to be Kimmel's fucking hosting. I'll tell you that much.
Like, I hate that guy. He sucks.
I feel like you can say that about majority of the
Oscars hosts. Yeah.
Well, that and just talk show hosts in general as well.
Yeah.
Like him, Jimmy Fallon kind of is kind of trash as well.
Yeah, they're kind of lame and very boring. And Stephen Colbert.
Yeah, Stephen Colbert, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Conan was the GOAT.
Yeah.
And he's out. No Larry King.
Yeah.
So
I am back. Can you hear
me? We ended up just making our predictions while you were gone. So
that's fine.
I mean, I picked I'm Just Ken. I know it'll probably be the Billie Eilish song, but I'm going to pick I'm Just Ken anyway.
Oh, I don't even remember there being a Billie Eilish song in Barbie.
It was
I feel like
it's towards the end.
Oh, okay. I feel like I don't see it not being I'm Just Ken, and I don't feel like there's a strong chance of anything else having a chance at winning. So that's why I didn't really feel like there was much to talk about.
I mean, I'm going for the Billie Eilish song.
That's maybe because I have no memory of there being a Billie Eilish song.
So the Billie Eilish song is top of the odds right now.
Yeah, well, I guess the problem is, and this is the problem I generally have with the Oscars, is that they just judge the best song as opposed to, taking account for the context within the movie, which I think they should do when you're at the Oscars.
Well, all the time it goes.
This isn't the Grammys.
Yeah,
we've already had the Grammys. I feel like this should be if it's sung by characters in the movie, I feel like it should have more weight to it. To me. So that's why I think Just Ken. But yeah,
fair enough.
I didn't really have much else to say. So we'll move on to score. Which we've got Laura Cartman for American Fiction, John Williams for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Robbie Robertson for Killers of the Flower Moon, Ludwig Göransson for Oppenheimer, and Jurgen Fendrix for Poor Things. I feel like Oppenheimer's got this one in the bag. Now, I'm trying to remember. There was at least one other film that I feel like people were outraged was not nominated and were confused why John Williams was nominated, only because John Williams is going to get nominated because anytime John Williams plays one note in any movie, he's going to be nominated because he's John Williams. But from what I heard, and I haven't seen the movie, but from what I heard, it's basically just reused score from all the old movies, and there's not that much interesting to it at all. And basically, anytime Chris Nolan has a movie, the score is one of the best things about it. So that's why I feel like it's probably front running for Oppenheimer. But I'd also like to hear the odds.
Yeah, what are the odds?
I will look it up.
What's missing? There's something missing from this list.
Yeah,
right?
I'm having a look too. I'm trying to figure it out. None of the big Best Picture ones I'd say are missing except for Zone. And I guess you could say maybe. I don't know if Maestro had much of a score. I don't really know.
I mean, even Mission Impossible probably had a more notable score than Indiana Jones.
Oh, Indiana Jones getting nominated is funny.
Oh, you know what people were mad about? Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh, it did no chance.
But we're just saying in terms of being nominated over top of Indiana Jones, I think.
Indiana Jones.
So Oppenheimer is the favorite based on the odds.
God.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's second?
Killers of the Flower Moon.
That's what I would have thought.
Okay.
Are you gunning for Poor Things?
Yeah, fuck yeah. Jurgen Fendrix, great musician, has put out music that isn't score-related stuff, by the way. He's very cool. His song Oh God is one of my most played songs of the past couple months.
Nice.
I mean, I think it's distinctive. I think it's interesting. I think it's got a lot of personality. To me, it's easily the most memorable score out of the ones that I've seen here. Oppenheimer has a good score, but it's just more Dunkirk. It's the same vibe. You're going for the ticking clock. That's really cool. Nolan loves it. I don't see why it should win. I just don't get it. It's a good score. But Poor Things is a really, really interesting and memorable score, and I feel like that's cooler.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember just vaguely thinking it is a fun, kind of quirky score, but I feel like it doesn't imprint on me that it was a strong part of the storytelling experience.
Okay.
Or that general experience coming out of the movie. Whereas with all Nolan, all recent Nolan films anyway, the score has a huge amount of impact on the storytelling and just the engagement of the audience. I think it really is one of those elements that really pulls you in and keeps you, attentive. So that's why I feel like it has the edge, even though he's done it for the last 3 films he's made, But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I give the edge to Oppenheimer as well, based off odds. Also, just because not only that, but it also won the Golden Globe and the BAFTA. So it's got that behind it as well, which I think kind of tips the edge for me.
And I would say, if Spider-Verse was nominated, it would definitely be my personal favorite in this list, although I'd still argue Oppenheimer would be more likely to win. But yeah, it's worth mentioning because I think the score does drive a lot of that film as well, in terms of the engagement and the character storytelling and stuff as well.
I'd like to take a moment to just to quickly talk about that overture again in Zone. To me, it was such a unique sound. To me, it sounds almost nice, and it kind of does when it first comes in. I don't know if you remember how it sounds, but it was that kind of vocal, oh thing. And it was slow and full of reverb and this thing. But and I saw someone talking about it somewhere. I think it was on YouTube in a comment, and they said, it sounds like you're being poisoned. And I kind of agree. It's almost like you've been given this nice drink, and you drink it, and now you're kind of feeling yourself drifting off. It's like there's this little undercurrent that something isn't right. And I found that to be really interesting. I think Michael Levi in general, who scored Jackie, who scored Under the Skin, does absolutely phenomenal work at creating these really unsettling sounds. And I would have loved to have seen them get nominated. But oh well. I think Oppenheimer's probably going to win. But I'm going to pick Poor Things just because I'm stubborn.
Nice. All right. Oppie, Poor Things then, is it?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, makeup and hairstyling fun. Okay. The nominees, I'll read out the names. Golda, Karen Hartley Thomas, Susie Battersby, and Ashra Kelly Blue. Maestro, Kazuhiro, Kei Georgiou, and Laurie McCoy Bell. Oppenheimer, Louisa Abel. Poor Things, Nadia Stacey, Mark Collier, and Josh Weston. And Society of the Snow, never heard of that movie, Ana Lopez Puisiver, don't know how to say that, David Marty, and Montse Ribe. So
all the sound designers are feeling so hurt right now.
Yeah. I'm very sorry, sound designers. So
Society of the Snow is like a Netflix film. It's based on a true story. It's a foreign film, but it's based on a true story. I'm really interested in seeing it, but it never got a cinema release as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay.
It's good. It's good.
Okay.
Have any of you seen Golda or nah?
No, I don't even know what that is. Have you?
Okay, so none of us have.
Never heard of it. Don't know what it is. I think Poor Things is winning. I think it would be sad to see it not win. I think this is arguably one of the strongest parts of the movie. It's got really cool makeup. It's got really cool hairstyling. I think it should win. It creates such an interesting little world. And the period design and the kind of the way the areas here is. I don't know. It's just it's good. It's good. It's good.
I don't know, man. What's his name? Bradley Cooper's nose in Maestro is pretty good.
Are we gonna have one of these? This happened a couple of years ago where there was a massive prosthetic on someone's face in Tammy Faye, Eyes of Tammy Faye.
Oh, yeah.
And Michael was just Michael hated
it.
There's no way. It's so ugly.
And then it won.
And then it won. Yeah.
Oh.
That's kind of why I'm tempted to tip Maestro, to be honest. It
would be so funny if he
just for the meme.
It would be so funny if he didn't win Best Actor, but then he won Best Nose. All that work, all of that work that he put into his gigantic passion project so he can win a fucking acting Oscar, and he ends up getting one for the prosthetic nose on his face.
Yeah, I feel like I can be convinced either Oppenheimer or Poor Things. I don't. Off the top of my head, I'm I can't think of a single specific character other than maybe Willem Dafoe, that it like stands out to me as like had something particularly very interesting going on. I assume Emma Stone's character had a lot of interesting different like hairstyles throughout, but I just can't remember specifically anyone in like anything in particular from either of the films.
It's mostly a Willem Dafoe thing,
right?
Unless you just talk about like in general, like some of the like weird body horror style things that they had going on. But
yeah, well, anything involving makeup or prosthetics as well was also obviously taken into account. Golda, by the way, I'm sure it's a film about the Israeli president or something like that.
Okay.
I feel like it's... Yeah, there's some famous actress in it who's like a white actress. And there's some like, controversy about her being cast in this role.
Yeah, what is this movie? I saw the trailer for it, actually. I'm now remembering. It seemed weird. It seemed like weird timing to bring this out, you know?
But I'm sure I saw posters for this like 2 years ago. I feel like it must have been delayed for some reason. Or maybe I'm just having flash.
Oh, it's Helen Mirren, and they were upset because she wasn't Jewish.
Yeah, but I don't know anything about it. And I assume Helen Mirren had a good hairstyle, but I don't know if enough people have seen the movie to vote for it. That's probably the problem. That's where I would say Oppenheimer probably gets my vote only just because more people have seen. No, actually, no. You know what? No. I'll vote Poor Things. Actually, I'll vote Poor Things only because to me, Oppenheimer, everyone just has normal haircuts, and everyone's just looking normal.
Yeah,
and I just feel like
it's
just a period piece that's done very well. There's nothing that really stands out. It's like they really put a lot of effort into making this creative work of art, which, I mean, we talked about that before, like how do you balance creativity versus realism? Obviously the realism is really good, but, you know, like movies like All Quiet on the Western Front, I don't think that didn't win Best Makeup, did it? And, you know,
I don't think so.
The amount of makeup that would have gone into a film like a war film like that, or Hacksaw Ridge is another one where I think those two should have had more recognition in the makeup department for when it comes to realism. If you are picking realism in terms of like mud and shit on people's faces, I think that's really much more interesting than just like the very clean nature of almost everyone in Oppenheimer. You know. And then, Poor Things, I guess, has just slightly more dirty aspects, you could say, towards some characters. And as you mentioned, obviously Willem Dafoe is very interesting. I can't remember that much. I'm sure there was some very interesting poofy hairstyles and things with some of the old, characters in general. Like there were a lot of extras which probably had lots of hair and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll vote Poor Things.
Cool. So 2 votes for Poor Things. What did you vote?
I'm going Maestro. I'm going to give it to Bradley Cooper's nose.
All right. Bradley Cooper's nose.
I gotta have a rogue pick somewhere. So
I don't know. Did anyone watch that movie? Did you watch that movie? You did watch that movie. Yeah. Was it good?
It's a biopic.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like it's I saw a thing and it was like saying how it like felt like Bradley Cooper was like trying very hard.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the vibe, you know what I mean? Like, all right. Okay, we have international feature film up next. We have O Capitano from Italy. We have Perfect Days from Japan. Society of the Snow from Spain. The Teacher's Lounge from Germany. And The Zone of Interest from the United Kingdom.
It's one of those. This seems to happen more often these days, where one of the BP noms is in international feature, meaning logically there's no way it's not going to win. I've heard good things about Perfect Days, and I'm going to see that I think this month. So I'm excited to see that. But I don't think there's any reason not to pick Zone of Interest, even though I haven't seen any of the other movies.
Yeah, I've seen 3 out of 5 of these. I haven't seen Capitano or Perfect Days. Yeah, I've seen Society of the Snow and I've seen The Teacher's Lounge.
Cool. What's The Teacher's Lounge? Like, what's it about?
It's about like a group of teachers, and like one of the teachers is like stealing shit from the others and then gets like caught out and then like shit happens basically. It's one of those types of
sounds
movies.
Interesting. I should add it to my watch list at least.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I will say this Society of the Snow is probably my favorite Oscars movie. I preferred it to like every other movie that got an Oscars nod. I would legitimately say Society of the Snow was my favorite out of all of them.
Cool.
It was just really good.
Out of international, or are you including all other BP
I'm
nods?
including Best Pictures.
Everything.
Wow.
Everything. It's probably my favorite. It's just really well done. Like it's been mentioned, it is based off of the true story of a plane crash in the Andes, which had a Uruguay rugby team on it.
Yeah, we read a book about that in school called Alive, based on the same thing.
Yeah.
Very interesting story.
It's
like amazing.
It's a mental story. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just really well done. Like there's a moment in the film. Oh, do you guys care about spoilers or not?
I kind of do because I do want to watch it, but I just don't know when I will.
Okay. Then I won't say anything then. But yeah, I'll just say it's really good. And there's a moment in the film that's just really well done. That's just like, yeah, well, at least I thought it was really well done.
Nice.
Yeah. I really wish Netflix put it out in cinemas. As far as I know, they didn't. So I never saw it.
Yeah.
But it was on my list to watch. But I mean, let's be realistic. Are you voting for that, or are you still?
Nah, I'm still voting for the Zone of Interest, but I would love to see Society of the Snow win, but it won't. But
yeah, I just don't know how they could logically justify not giving it to Zone when it's
Zone's winning. So. There's no way Zone's not winning this category.
Yeah. All right then. Let's trolley along to film editing. Nominees are Lauren Sénéchal for Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, edited by Kevin Tent, Thelma Schumacher for Killers of the Flower Moon, Jennifer Lame for Oppenheimer, Yorgos Saridis for Poor Things. This is an interesting one.
What a strong category.
It's very interesting to me how much of an improvement Oppenheimer for me was over Tenet, because I thought there was quite a shift when Jennifer Lame took over editing. It used to be Lee Smith who used to edit Chris Nolan's movies, but he was busy doing 1917, I think. Was it 1917? I don't remember. He was doing something when Chris Nolan did Tenet. So he hired Jennifer Lame, who I've seen a few of her other movies as well, in which they're more like small kind of drama comedies. And I thought it was an interesting pick that I wouldn't have seen coming. And for me, Tenet suffered a lot in the editing in terms of the overall structure of things and the way it was paced. But I feel like Oppenheimer, they did a much better job overall, and Oppenheimer is very, very dependent on its editing to keep the audience engaged, as I mentioned a little bit before. So I think it's easily the strongest contender here.
Yeah, I think it's winning. I think it's winning best editing. It's got very noticeable editing. I think I'm not a big fan of the editing in Oppenheimer. In fact, it was one of my biggest problems with Oppenheimer was the editing. Apart from the sequence, once you really get close to the Trinity test, when you're getting in that sort of 30 minutes out section, oh boy, does the editing get fantastic. But I had a major issue with the beginning of the film's editing. I felt that it was basically, it was like dropping you in at at an energy level of like a 7 or an 8 at the very beginning of the movie. And to me that was like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, like you have 2 hours basically, as far as I remember, at least an hour and a half, if not a little longer, to get to that, you know, the Trinity test. And you're starting me off at a point where there's already a lot of things happening and a lot of things going on, and you're not letting me sit in it for a little bit. You're pushing me straight towards what is Einstein saying to this guy out at the river or whatever it was. Like that's pretty much right near the beginning. Am I right in remembering that? You basically get introduced to Robert Downey Jr., Oppenheimer, Albert Einstein, Florence Pugh, all in this like.
I feel like it's fairly early on, but I feel like down. Before that, there's quite a strong section, which for me is what really pulled me into the movie, which was, the very beginning of the movie, kind of going through Oppenheimer's thoughts, and you kind of hear him. I don't know if he's talking to himself or this narration. I can't quite remember, but basically he's going through his thoughts and understanding atoms and nuclear fission and stuff, and you see these flashes of these amazing visuals. And I think seeing this in IMAX is what for me justified it being on IMAX, because these specific scenes right at the beginning is where I think IMAX is most well utilized for these visual trippy things that were going on in terms of all the like sparks and the visual nuclear whatevers. I feel like that's what pulled me into the movie. And so for me, the beginning of the movie was really, really strong in pulling me into that. The overall structure of it, as I kind of mentioned before, I kind of fell off a bit with the black and white sections, but I think overall it was enough to keep me engaged the whole time. And I still, didn't come out of it feeling like I was falling asleep or losing attention or anything like that. I was still fully engaged with it, even though there were parts of it I didn't really feel like I enjoyed that much. And it felt, I think, to me, it feels intentional how hard hitting it is, even from the beginning. And it feels like it's just brutalizing you, which maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. For me, it kind of made me feel like really exhausted after it. I was just like, oh my God, that was so intense. But I think that's the intention. I think it's very well done at doing what I think it's trying to do, even if maybe it's not what you like. If you don't like that experience, that's fair. But I think they were trying to make you feel that way, and I think they did a good job of doing that.
To me, it does a disservice to a lot of the earlier parts of the film that should stand out more than they do by the end. I think the fact that like a lot of like it's very easy to forget the poisoning of the apple. To me is insane, because that's such an amazing thing that actually happened in this dude's life. And it feels like nothing because it just gets brushed past. I think Florence Pugh gets done like such a massive disservice, to the point where I think that they probably should have just cut her out of the movie entirely. And I think even including her in the way that they did is like a poor choice across the board. Directing, writing, editing, everything. She is so inconsequential to the movie that it legitimately feels like she's there to have sex with him and then leave. And so for me, I just feel like there's just so many things in the beginning of the film that kind of get wasted or turned to mush amidst this like million things that you're having to follow leading up to the Trinity test.
I think you make some good points about like Florence Pugh maybe wasn't in it enough to justify why she was there. I feel like I felt the impacts of her character on Oppenheimer. I feel like, leading to, the way he treated her and was kind of ignoring her, and then she dies, and like that had quite an effect on him. I feel like that worked, and I felt some of that impact. But you're probably right in that maybe they didn't kind of, balance the characters well enough to make it clear how important she was to the story for him.
One thing I do want to say is I think Zone of Interest was the best edited movie I saw all year, and I'm pretty pissed off that it's not here. If we want to talk about amazing editing and flashy editing that works really well and deserves to be here, I think you can look at the red out, I guess you call it, the red out in Zone of Interest, where you've got this montage of flowers, everything's very still, very placid, and it's like obviously I'll just describe it for anyone who hasn't seen it. The movie fades to bright red. A bass sound fills your ears, and then suddenly you're back. And it's like the movie glitches out for a moment and can't comprehend what it's actually seeing and what's actually going on. It's like all of a sudden the montage of the flowers is just too much placid beauty for the movie to put up with anymore, and it just goes, what is going on? And the movie goes red. Like, I love that. And the fact that when it snaps back, you're kind of left with this like sick feeling in your stomach as the next kind of few scenes play out is just, to me, like the power of a cut. Like, that's the kind of thing that you should be teaching people and talking to people about in editing class. The power of just one single cut can do that to somebody.
I think I needed you to explain that to me, because I did not really comprehend why they used that at that time in the movie. I feel like what you're saying about the power of the cut is used really effectively in that movie at the end of the movie.
And at the end of the movie, holy shit.
That was the most powerful cut in the whole film. That's what kind of made me
I would agree that is the most powerful
whole point of the film. But the whole red thing was, I think, I don't know, it just felt like it wasn't clear why it was doing that at that time in the movie. I feel like maybe if it was more clear, like if there was something more story-wise happening before that happened and after it happened. But it just felt like this weird, it's just like, oh, we need to put this red thing in, let's just put it here. Like I didn't really understand why it was in that position in the film. Because it didn't really translate to me. It didn't really tell me anything about what I was supposed to be feeling in that moment.
I see. I mean, the one at the end is like my favorite cut. One of my favorite cuts ever at this point. Because, and I know we're talking about this for a long time now, but like the fact that you cut to the future and you see all of this and you feel like that could be the end of the movie. That you're seeing, you know, what will eventuate of this is really the garden that they're maintaining and the life that they're trying to uphold and their family that they're trying to uphold will not be what is maintained of their lives in the future. It will be the museums. It will be the piles of shoes and human like remains and everything. That's what will be maintained of their work, their life's work, you know? Like, and then the fact that it cuts back and you're just left with him staring into this like hallway is fucking phenomenal. Like that is how you show the full weight of like history crashing back into somebody. And his reaction is to throw up, of course.
It's kind of like the contrast between the like micro and the macro, you know what I mean? Like this entire film has been the focus on like the micro, right? Of just this family. And then we sort of cut to the museum essentially of like the macro of the historical, you know, ramifications of this event.
Yeah.
You know, and then we cut back to the micro again and sort of finish on the micro, which is what the entire film was about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just interesting because it puts you in his head being like, is he actually thinking about that in that moment in time? Because like a lot of the film is like me struggling with the idea that any human being could have these kind of conversations about other people in this way. You know, they've got that big war meeting, and I'm just like, how does not one single person in this room like how do they feel individually? Does not one single person here think that what they're doing is horrible? You know,
right?
And to actually give a moment, and they can only do it when he's alone, because none of these people are going to say anything, because then they'll be killed if they stand up against Hitler and whatever. So obviously, it's only when he's on his own that you get to see, oh yeah, maybe he was having that thought.
To me, it doesn't necessarily read as like individual guilt. I don't think he feels guilt. I don't think he understands that. I think it's all very banal, and that's kind of the point of the movie, right? Is that they view it as this banal thing. I think to me, it's almost like a premonition being forced upon him. It's like he's not sitting there like, I feel bad about this all of a sudden. I think it's almost like his body, similar to the way that the red happens earlier. I think it's almost like all of a sudden this reaction is forced upon you. It's like you can't hold it in anymore. And earlier in the movie, the film just goes red, and this time he throws up. He just throws up. He doesn't know why he's throwing up. And you could even argue that it's because he was drinking, but I don't think it was. You know? To me, it's like he throws up and he looks into the distance, and all of this crashes back at him. It's a little bit more like metaphysical, mystical kind of thing. I think it's the movie making a point rather than it being like about what he actually thinks and feels.
Yeah,
know?
I wasn't necessarily saying, I don't know if it's, I don't think necessarily it was him being like, oh, I feel bad. It was more like just the physical reaction to recognizing that what you're doing on a physical level is grotesque.
Yeah.
And I feel like at least having that recognition is kind of what stirred that reaction. That's what I'm imagining is what was in his head. Not that he felt bad on an emotional level, but just like recognizing the physical horror, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess we should predict best.
We spent a long time talking about Zone of Interest. Which
I know. The movie that wasn't nominated.
Two editors talking about editing. What a surprise that they would go off on a tangent.
So what are you guys
we're all picking Oppenheimer, I believe, right?
Yeah.
I thought Gami, you weren't confident in it.
I have my personal qualms, but I think it's winning.
What's your favorite then out of the 5 here?
For editing, Killers of the Flower Moon. It's Thelma. She knows what she's doing.
Obviously a mainstay, you know, one of those pairings. It's like Quentin and Sally, you know.
Yeah.
You do always notice that they work really well together. And like, I think it was a while since I've seen the movie, so I can't particularly remember what I liked about the editing, but I would say I remember thinking, well, if I remember the movie, I would say that played a part of it, because it's another similar aspect where it's quite a long movie and the editing is what you need to keep you engaged, structure and storytelling wise. So they definitely did a very good job there.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely can't like pick out individual examples of things about Killers that I liked in terms of the editing. But, you know, there were some really good like little montages and moments where sort of like Leo would like almost narrate, if I remember rightly, and it would, you know, it's just, for a 3.5 hour movie, you gotta do a lot to keep people going. And for me, I was kept going by it.
But we're all picking Oppenheimer then for prediction wise.
Yeah.
So, and has anyone seen? Oh, I've seen one of the documentaries.
Which one have you seen?
I've seen Four Daughters.
Okay.
Which was really, really interesting. But I have no way of judging what's better out of all of them. But it's the only one I've heard anything, because I saw it at the film festival. It's the only one I've also heard about more recently post film festival, but that's just because it got a cinema release here, I think. I haven't heard of any of the other ones, so I really
I've seen 20 Days in Maripol and Bobby Wine, the People's President. So 20 Days in Maripol is about the Ukrainian war,
right,
like when it first started. And it's about a bunch of journalists who are in Maripol when it's essentially all going down. And then Bobby Wine, the People's President, is about a Ugandan musician who runs for president of Uganda, and it sort of goes into the various political corruption that's going on in Uganda at the moment. But yeah, I haven't seen the other three.
Interesting. I don't really feel like I can make a prediction, so I'm going to abstain from predicting. I don't feel like we can necessarily. It's harder with documentary because you're not just judging how good of a documentary is. You also have to take in consideration that a lot of people will probably, you know, feel emotional about a particular subject and want to vote for that one. And obviously more recent events that are more relevant right now are more likely to lead to getting votes, I would guess. So I don't know, but it's hard because I haven't seen them, so I'm not going to really make a judgment. But I do want to say Four Daughters was really, really interesting, and I do recommend it.
If I was to predict one, and I have not seen any of these, I would predict 20 Days in Mariupol. Just simply because of the subject matter. But I don't want to like steal points. So if you're abstaining, I will also abstain because I haven't seen it.
I mean, I would also tip 20 Days.
Yeah, I mean, so would I. If you force me to choose, I'm gonna choose 20 Days as well. So it doesn't make a difference whether we vote or not. So I'm just gonna say it's not.
Okay, we'll all vote for the Ukraine one.
Well, it's worth talking about. I just don't know if it's fair to make a prediction.
Yeah, it won something. It won either the Globe or the BAFTA or something as well. So it's got that going for it.
All right.
Okay. Seems fair. Yeah. Seems like a winner.
Okay, and moving on to Best Directing, the nominees are Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, and Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest. So, I will say that I think this is a very, 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 very strong lineup of directors.
I think it's probably the 5 that should be there, I would say. I think they all did a good job. I think it's probably one of Nolan's better directed films, though I still have massive issues with it. Nolan's going to win. It's very obvious that Nolan's going to win.
Yeah.
Martin Scorsese did a great job. Justin Trier did an amazing job on Anatomy of a Fall, especially with the visual style, which I think is very understated, but I think it works really well. The locations are amazing. The shooting method is amazing. It's sort of like hits the perfect line between cinematic and kind of a social realism vibe. Yorgos, I'm not the biggest fan of Yorgos' style all the time. I'm not really that big on all the fisheyes and stuff like that, but I think it worked here because the movie is so wonky and wacky and strange. Jonathan Glazer did an amazing job. I think when you look at the method in which he actually decided to direct this, it was very interesting. He basically wasn't on set very much. He set up a bunch of cameras around the place in fixed positions and got the actors to do their thing, and then sort out that stuff later. At least I know that was the case with the interiors and some of the exterior stuff too.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. He does a lot of that. He did that in Under the Skin too. He did some hidden camera stuff, which was cool. And I think in terms of like crafting memorable scenes, in the way that they're directed, I don't think anyone else matches up. I think of the scene where they're in the river, playing in the river, and you sort of slowly see things washing downstream, and you sort of, you're like, what's that? And you start to figure out what it is, and all of a sudden you've got the guy picking up, bone fragments from the river and stuff, and it's all very disturbing. It's all very screwed up, and it's all just done with a very unwavering gaze. There's something very clinical about it, and I don't think it could have been done any other way. And I think stylistically, it's the most interesting directing on here. It's the most impactful directing on here by a country mile. But yeah, Nolan's got this in the bag. He's winning. There's nobody else who's even comes close. He's winning. He's winning. Yep.
I feel like with Nolan, it's like this is the point in history where Hollywood agrees Christopher Nolan is one of the top tier best directors working. Now, everyone already knew that he was in the conversation around one of the favorite directors because everyone wants to go see the next Nolan film. But this is the point in time where he's getting that official stamp that says, yes, you're good enough for us. We appreciate you. It's more than just blockbusters now,
Yeah.
You're one of us. That's what it feels like, because I feel like in terms of directing, it's not my favorite of his. I feel like it's a crime I don't know what was in competition, but if he was going to win directing for any of his films, I feel like it's a crime it wasn't Interstellar. But yeah, like definitely very strong in some regards, but I feel like, to be honest, the score and the music and the script are much stronger elements of Oppenheimer than specifically the direction. Also, having seen it in IMAX, most of it, as I described, worked well, and there were some IMAX elements that I think worked really well. But every time there's a film that's in IMAX, especially a Nolan or a big action movie, you have to point out there are times where the aspect ratio just changes for no good reason. And I feel like when you make a film where you're going to be using multiple aspect ratios, you need to be very intentional about this scene is going to be full IMAX, this scene is going to be more close quarter, just a normal scope scene. But sometimes within a scene, it just changes back and forth. I don't know if that's because maybe they intended to film it all in IMAX and they had to do a pickup shot where they didn't have the IMAX camera. Maybe it's that kind of scenario. I don't know. But there were just a few moments like that do really irk me when I see those happen in a movie, where it kind of just breaks that immersion a little bit. And I think the responsibility of the director, especially someone like Chris, who's very, telling everyone to go see it in IMAX. Well, you want to make that the best experience possible, and so you should be thinking about that. I know it's a very relatively minor gripe amongst the whole film, but it's one of those things.
I don't think it's minor. I think it's massively frustrating.
Like it doesn't happen
ridiculous.
often. It doesn't happen as often as it does in like a big action movie, like a Transformers movie or something like that. But it happens enough that I would write it in my review. Whether or not I don't think it's in my published review, because my original review that I spent a long time writing got deleted somehow, and I was so mad at that. But yeah, it was definitely something I wanted to point out. But I don't know, it doesn't ruin the movie for me. It's just, for those of you who saw it in IMAX 1 or 2 times, you would have noticed that the IMAX ratio changed, and it just took you out maybe a little bit. Overall, in terms of my favorite direction, you make some really strong points about Zone of Interest that I think they're really, really interesting, that I probably hadn't thought about that strongly, but you're right. It does make it feel kind of very observatory, okay, in that way, which is very
that's what I'm on this podcast for, is to talk about Zone of Interest the entire time.
It's totally a Zone of Interest podcast. But I was gonna say my favorite direction actually out of all of this is Yorgos Lanthimos. I think, like,
nice
visually and just production design and everything, that really comes, there's a very strong direction from him in this movie that really, I guess, for me was the most engaging part about the film. I think was just being in this world and being told this story in this way. I think for me was the most effective directing out of these. So that's why for me that's probably actually, I don't know. I'm really tempted to actually predict this, only because I know Nolan has all the odds, and I feel like in some ways it would be silly not to give it to him. But Oppenheimer's going to win so much else. It's probably going to win more awards than any other film. I mean, it's been nominated for more awards than any other film, I think. And yeah, you could say, well, it's silly not to award the director for that, but I think he's also a credited producer as well. So if he wins Best Picture, he's still winning an Oscar. I feel like it's worth giving the shout out to Yorgos here, only because, I don't know, to me, I felt it was more of a big piece of that film as opposed to what I said about Oppenheimer, where I was like, I feel like the directing wasn't the main thing. Although it's hard to tell. It's very hard to tell in a lot of cases, because I guess you never know whose idea was what. But the overall feeling brought together by the film, the strength of the film, the consistency that carries through it. If that's kind of what you're going for, I would say I preferred that from Yorgos, but I can understand why pretty much everyone will vote Nolan. So I'm torn. I don't know what I should predict. I want to hear you guys talk about what you think, though.
Well, I feel like it's Nolan's category to lose, really. Like, he's just the clear front runner to win it. However, I do agree with what you guys have been saying about in regards to with Poor Things. Just in that, I feel like it's kind of the most unique film out of the bunch, and like as a result of that, I feel like if you have a unique film, it's a lot easier as a director to sort of put your stamp on it, if that makes any sense.
And it's consistent with the style of the story too.
Yeah,
I think that one of the big things, like with The Favourite, I don't know if you guys have seen The Favourite.
No, I haven't.
Have you seen The Favourite?
No, not yet. Well, no.
It uses a lot of big fisheye style stuff, and it doesn't quite feel right.
Yeah,
it feels
like
weird. It feels like a weird like Kubrickism that he's picked up from watching Eyes Wide Shut or something, and he's like, I just want to try this,
Yeah.
Well, with Poor Things, it feels like all of those big decisions that he's making with the scene setups and the lens choices, and I know that's partially cinematography too, but it feels consistent with the like basically baby who's trying to figure out the world, and also the zany tone of like the humor and the design of everything and the story and the dialogue and the acting and everything. Like it all feels very much of a piece.
Yeah. You're both definitely making me want to do it. I'm going to predict Poor Things.
You're insane.
May as well at least stand out from it, because if it does,
but
that
it
puts
won't.
me ahead of the. But like I was saying before, I want to see Academy make more interesting choices. But speaking of, they didn't nominate Celine's song, which I think is kind of a travesty, because I think one of the strongest parts easily of Past Lives is the direction and the visual storytelling. So I'm sad it wasn't nominated. Then again, I don't know who I would take out of the competition because they're all very strong. So I honestly, I think especially the big categories like directing, cinematography, they need to have 6 noms. If only because, you know, when they do the slideshow, it's got 3 on the left and 2 on the right hand side. I'm like, you could just have 3 on each side. It would make it look a lot nicer.
It ruins the exclusivity.
That's a really good point, actually.
But the thing is, we have to recognize that there's just, I think, just a general increase in strength every year on year at the Oscars, and we may as well just include more people. There's no really harm in including one more person in all these categories. So I think they should do it.
It's a hell of a strong Oscars year. It's a hell of a year. Like, in terms of the quality of stuff that's like blanketed all of the categories, it's pretty amazing, especially in Best Picture, but we'll get to that. Okay, so Oppie Poor Things.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we have costume design. The nominees are Barbie, Jacqueline Doan. Don't know why I put an accent on there, but there
Jacqueline.
You go. Killers of the Flower Moon, another Jacqueline.
Yeah.
Jacqueline West. Napoleon, Jan T. Yates and Dave Crossman. Oppenheimer, Alan Murdrink. Poor Things, Holly Weddington. Okay, let me think. I mean, I haven't seen Napoleon, so I can't comment on it. Oppenheimer, I feel like its costumes aren't like... I'll put it this way, right? The two most like obvious costumes right here are Barbie and Poor Things, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
And I think it is between those two. And I actually like the costumes for both those films. I thought the costumes were amazing. Yeah. I know that the Academy does tend to favor sort of its period pieces when it comes to costumes. I don't know. I'm really torn between Barbie and Poor Things. I'm gonna hand over to you guys because I just need some time to think, to be honest.
But what you're saying though is like, despite Hollywood and Academy liking period pieces, you don't think Oppenheimer has really got a chance in this?
Nah, but like when I'm talking period pieces, I'm because
Poor Things has a period.
It's basically a period.
So yeah. But
it's like a fantasy period piece, you could say.
I'm talking more like your corsets, your big gowns. That's the type of stuff that I'm talking about. So if we're talking about that type of thing, then Poor Things is probably the shout. But however, Barbie's costumes are amazing as well. So I'm literally torn between the two.
Yeah, I feel like I'm looking at a meme right now, which is Henry Cavill is Barbie and Poor Things, and creeping up behind him is Jason Momoa, who is Napoleon.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like you say, they do like period pieces, and Napoleon probably has the most costumes, probably in any of these films in total, if you just count how many costumes they would have made. And presumably is reasonably accurate for the time. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie as well, and I don't know that much about the history, but I've just seen the trailer in the IMAX theater like 7 times because they wouldn't stop playing it. And like, it looked like it had really good costumes, and I feel like if it's going to win any award, this is what it's going to win. And I think Poor Things is great. Barbie is pretty good too, but I feel like, I don't know. I'm just going to be bold. I'm just going to say, I think overall they're going to respect the costumes of Napoleon more than the more quirky costumes like Barbie or Poor Things.
Right.
Okay.
That's my guess. I don't know. With costume, it's so hard. I really don't know enough, I think. But I want to put a prediction in here which is going to be different because I don't want us to have the same things every time.
Thoughts?
I have thoughts. So I don't think it's going to be Napoleon. I don't think that's happening. I understand your argument 100% that like occasionally like there will be certain departments and stuff like that are just going to go for the staid old, tried and true, period stuff and all that. And I'm sure Napoleon's like, very ambitious and stuff and blah, blah, blah. But Poor Things has incredible costume design, but I think this is Barbie. I think Barbie deserves it too. I think Barbie should be the winner for this, because there's something to be said about just iconic costuming. Poor Things is definitely impressive if you look at it and you take it apart and see what, the styles are that they've like put together, and the way that like all the gowns that she has and Willem Dafoe's outfits too. But I can remember the outfits from Barbie right now in my head. Like, I did just see the movie, but I wouldn't be able to say the same thing for Poor Things right after seeing it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, every time there was a new costume in Barbie, I'd be like, whoa, cool costume. Like, I would think about it, That double denim thing that she's got with that's in like the pink. It's so good. Yeah. The fucking fringe thing that he's wearing, the cowboy stuff, like, it looks phenomenal. And it's like, yeah, it's simple. Yeah, it's maybe not as like elaborate as Napoleon or Poor Things. But I have faith that the Oscars can look at this and be like, what is memorable and what makes a movie better? And for me, like, all the design elements of Barbie are the movie. They're the thing that really push the movie over the edge into being like an okay movie to what I would say is a good movie, So I'm going to pick Barbie. I'm going with my heart.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? So Barbie, I want to go Barbie, right? Because it's probably my favorite out of the 5. But I do think... Oh, it's a coin toss. It's such a coin toss. I'm like, do I go with what's probably my favorite, right, which is Barbie, or do I try and be different and go Poor Things, so we finally have like a 3-way split between it?
I say do what you want.
Yeah, you make a very compelling argument, Michael. I think what's going through my head is like movies that tend to just look like they're wearing normal clothes from today's world. I feel like just have, for me, make less of an impact when it comes to costume design, even though you're quite right. I think the general vibe of these Oscars is Barbenheimer, so they're more likely to win the Oscars just because they've been in more conversation throughout the better and for year. Worse. Yeah, exactly. Minus the directing, not getting a nomination.
Blah blah blah. Who cares?
Not that I think it should. Not that I think it should have. I'm saying a lot of people were up in arms about that.
I've made my decision. I'm going Barbie.
You're going Barbie?
Yeah, I'm going Barbie.
Nice.
He's going Barbie.
Yeah, fair enough.
He looked up the odds. No, he didn't.
No,
I always find myself in these scenarios knowing that I'm wrong, but really hoping.
You got to push. I get it.
It's because it's like when we used to like play poker. I would always make the worst bets because I'm just really hoping that I'm right in this scenario. But I'm really wrong. But so 2 for Barbie and 1 for Napoleon. Now moving on then to cinematography. We have nominees Edward Luckman for El Conde, Rodrigo Prieto for Killers of the Flower Moon, Matthew Libatique for Maestro, Hoyt van Hoytema for Oppenheimer, and Robbie Ryan for Poor Things. Now, as much as we did have conversations about the very interesting cinematography in Poor Things, this is one of those ones where, again, Oppenheimer for me just wins it on the technical categories, and I feel like it's going to win. Despite me thinking, I guess Poor Things is my favorite out of these. Poor Things for me, I think the visual aspect of it for me was, I guess, more of a direction thing than specifically like, I don't know, it's very hard to distinguish what you say. I mean, they're obviously both very strong elements, but for me, I would say just the ability for them to have captured the things that they did capture in Oppenheimer, all in camera. Even, it wasn't a real nuclear explosion, but it was a real explosion, even if it was on a miniature scale or however it is they did. Not only that, but also the stuff we mentioned with like the nuclear, all those kind of things that look like they could have just been visual effects were captured in camera. That to me is very, very impressive. And I think just even those kind of elements alone raise it high enough that it's probably, I think is going to win, even if it's not technically my favorite, because I think just stylistically Poor Things is more interesting to me, but on a technical level of who did the best job, I think I'd give it to Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I do think it's between Oppenheimer and Poor Things here. Although Poor Things, I think maybe has the more like interesting cinematography. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just one of those things where it's just like Oppenheimer's just gonna really like storm away with a lot of awards here. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I think it's just one of those years. I feel like for me, Oppenheimer's kind of the head pick, while Poor Things is the heart pick. You know what I mean? Like, what do I think will win? Oppenheimer. What do I want to win? Probably Poor Things. Yeah.
To me, Oppenheimer and Poor Things both make full use of their cinematography as much as possible. I think they both go 100 the entire time, and I think every single shot is like a painting. They really, 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 really try. But what I think the difference is in Poor Things, I think it makes sense for it to always be that way. In Oppenheimer, I don't think it makes sense for it to always be that way. I think at a certain point, I think Oppenheimer goes too far off the deep end when it's cinematography. I think it constructs every single frame to be this like very elaborate, very detailed painting / portrait. I think every single close-up could be simplified. I think a lot of it visually could be simplified, especially when you're running into the third act, which is, by the way, my favorite. But you're running into like multiple sort of locations and timelines all kind of happening at once. And to me, it just kind of felt like sensory overload. I wish that maybe they took the Scorsese approach of not making everything huge all the time and maybe dumbing down the cinematography a little, going a little bit tighter in on the faces, stuff like that, because then I feel like it would feel more fluid to me. And it started to feel a little bit jagged and a little bit like every shot felt like its own thing. It's like, I think I used in my review that I talked about in Letterboxd, it's like when somebody's coming up with a sentence and they use a lot of like elaborate words one after the other without spacing them out, you kind of end up with an unreadable sentence. And that's how I felt. While with Poor Things, the atmosphere was so like insane and so wacky that it was okay. And I didn't feel that so much because you're supposed to kind of feel a bit skewiff and a bit awkward. So I would say the same. I think Oppenheimer's winning, absolutely. But I'm sad that it is, because I think that Poor Things is a better example of doing your best as a cinematographer and having it pay off in the end.
I love how like so many of these technical categories, you're like, oh yeah, Oppenheimer definitely is going to win, but I hate it. Yeah, so we're all for Oppie then.
Yep.
Yeah. And moving on to animated feature film. Okay, this is kind of interesting. I've seen none of these, but we're just gonna. I'll make a prediction anyway. The nominees are The Boy and the Heron by Hayao Miyazaki and Toshio Suzuki, Elemental by Peter Son and Denise Ream, Nimona by Nick Bruno, Troy Quayne, Karen Ryan, and Julie Zachary, Robot Dreams by Pablo Berger, Ibon Comenzana, Ignacy Estape, and Sandra Tapia Diaz, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse by Kemp Powers, Justin K. Thompson, Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, and Amy Pascal. I think that Spider-Man's winning. I would say that the only real upsetter here might be Boy and the Heron, but I feel like the hype for that died pretty quick. I feel like it came out, people were like, wow, have you seen the new Miyazaki? And I haven't heard anybody talk about it in the last month. While I feel like Spider-Verse still has a lot of fans. And it's a big movie, and it's for kids, which is a big thing when you're making animated feature movies that are getting nominated for Oscars. They need to be for kids, because that's what I would assume a large portion of Academy voters view animated films as movies for kids. So I think Spider-Man's winning.
So I've seen all of them except Robot Dreams. Yeah, so Elemental was kind of just like, what's the word?
Are you going to say forgettable?
Forget. That's the word I was trying to think of. Pixar movie. Nimona I thought was quite wholesome. but I don't think it's going to win. I think it is between Spider-Man and The Boy and the Heron. The thing with Spider-Man, though, I think, is... So, because the first one won it, and I feel like the second one doesn't really do anything, like, new. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, it's still good, still looks sick. Like, with the animated... With the animation style, art style and that. But it doesn't really necessarily do anything new. Granted, you could say the same thing about The Boy and the Heron, right? Like, it's your typical Studio Ghibli like movie. And like, to sum up, The Boy and the Heron is like, it's good, but it's fucking weird. Is how I describe the movie. That's my review. You can put that in quotes and chuck it on the top of the DVD cover. But I mean, you can say that about just like, I mean, granted, the only other Studio Ghibli film I've seen is Spirited Away. Yeah, so I think it's between.
Bro, you gotta watch the Studio Ghibli movies.
Yeah,
that shit's good.
Yeah, I've only seen Spirited Away. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you've seen like the worst one.
People are gonna come at you for that, Gami.
It's kind of true. Like,
honestly, I agree though. I don't like it that much either, but everyone loves it. It's the also he won best animated feature for Spirited Away, which is I think this is his last film.
Well, that's the thing is he said it was going to be his last film, and then he's kind of like retracted that since. So I feel like had he said it was his last film.
No, I thought that his previous film he originally said was his last film. Then he came back and did this one.
I think he's done it again though.
Okay,
I could be wrong. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure.
I was gonna say,
he's like,
I was gonna say like for legacy purposes they could give it to him, but because he has won it before, they don't really need to do the legacy award. Now, I think what you're saying about Spider-Man is interesting. However, I disagree. I think they did do new things. They did basically introduce new animation styles for certain characters. For example, when you're in, for not characters, but when you're in a different universe, which is the specific universes actually did have distinct animation styles. The first Spider-Man movie is all within Miles' world. The second movie spends a lot of time in Gwen's world, and her world specifically was very different in the style of animation, which I think was really, really interesting. And I think overall, even though it is kind of a lot similar to the first one, I think it does step up the game, and it's very, very impressive. And overall, I would say it is the most well animated out of at least the three that I've seen here, and probably out of all of them. I disagree that Elemental's forgettable only because on a story level, I really enjoyed it. I think animation-wise, it's just any other Pixar movie. Although I think the water character in particular was very interesting and fun from an animation perspective. But I want to shout out Elemental just because I really liked it. And I feel like it didn't deserve everyone calling it this boring, forgettable movie, because I think it was really fun. I think it was really it told a really cute story that I really vibed with. So I want it to have a little bit more sunlight than it has currently. But I still think the strongest chance to win is Spider-Man. I think it deserves it. I think they did justify it itself earning a second nomination because it did do more than just the original did, or it added to it. You know,
that is a good point. What you just said in regards to the world sort of being the different styles versus just individual characters. That is a good point. You kind of made me eat my words there. So good job, Ben.
I don't think Hayao Miyazaki has the like immediacy in his stories to like connect with people enough to get like many nominations. Like Spirited Away is like its own thing because it was such a big like box office beast and stuff. But I feel like he has a real problem with storytelling, and I'm not saying this like about The Boy and the Heron. I'm just going on a side tangent. His stories are so insanely bloated. I don't understand like how he gets away with it. You look at his stuff versus like some of the other like Studio Ghibli directors, and it's like night and day. Except for The Wind Rises. That movie's great.
Are you picking... Wait, so what's everyone picking?
I'm picking Spider-Man. Spider-Man, yeah.
Spider-Man? You know what? I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna go the Bohemian Rhapsody. Fuck it.
All right.
I'm gonna be different. Yeah, I'm probably wrong, but you know.
Ooh, we're in acting. Let's go.
And the big ones.
Should we do... Oh, no. I was going to say, should we do
Best Picture first and finish with the acting?
I was going to say, should we do the supporting first?
So funny.
And then do the leads?
Oh, yes, yeah. We'll do actress supporting and then... Yeah.
Yeah? All right. Next category up, we have actress in a supporting role. We have Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks in The Color Purple, America Ferrera for Barbie. Why are you shaking your head? Oh, because you don't agree with the nomination. That's why. Jodie Foster for Naiad, Davine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers. I have seen all these movies except for The Color Purple. Have any of you seen The Color Purple?
I never want to see that fucking movie. No, thank you.
No.
No. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I stopped watching the original Color Purple. I think not because I was bored, but because it was just too long. I feel bad about that, but I have no interest in watching a musical version either.
So yeah, it's a musical. I forgot that.
What a bad idea.
I totally forgot that it was a musical.
It's so funny.
Yeah. Which ones have you guys seen out of these? Am I the only one who's seen Naiad?
Yeah, you are.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah. I've only seen Barbie and Oppenheimer here.
I have no idea what Naiad even is, so I don't.
It's about a woman who swam from Cuba to Florida.
Cuba to Florida. I was going to say it doesn't sound that far, but then you said swam, so that's quite far.
Yeah, she swam. Yeah. Took her like not just like 2 days or something.
You can't see Florida from Cuba, you know?
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, in my head immediately, I just assumed you were talking about like someone like on a little boat, but then I realized no, fully swam the whole
time.
She
swam.
Straight up fucking swam.
How do you make a feature film out of that though? How do you? Is it just swimming?
Well, it's a pretty long swim.
Yeah, but what's the story? It's like
she tried to do it like 5 times and failed the first 4 times. So it's covers like a couple of her first goes. You eat up some time there.
I wanted to I think when I first saw Oppenheimer, I noted Emily Blunt as being one of the best, one of the standout performances, I guess, in the movie. The other, America Ferrera, I think, as a lot of people say, she had like one good scene, and that's what she's nominated for. Not to say she was bad.
Yeah,
not to say she was bad.
Garby doesn't think it's a good scene.
It's like just nominating a random character in like a random comedy movie, like in the Oscars. You know, it does feel kind of slightly out of place compared to all these very dramatic performances. Of which I'd say Divine Joy Randolph, I think, has it in the bag. I think clearly is the standout for me in terms of giving the most powerful performance here. And I think odds-wise, I'm pretty sure she's front-running as well.
She's my prediction, for sure, just because of the odds. Like, you're seeing her name everywhere at the moment, and, you know, you can only assume that that's because she's definitely going to win. America Ferrera gives one of the most bland performances I think I've ever seen. There was nothing wrong with it. It was fine. The scene in question was shit. Like, actually really bad. And I don't understand how anyone can look at that and think it's good. It's I understand the power that it might have for some people, but I think in that case there are other things that are better and more powerful, like the entirety of Poor Things, if you're looking for something that actually investigates gender issues in an interesting way. And I'm not saying that Barbie doesn't do that, it definitely does, but not in that scene. That's like the worst scene in the movie by a clear margin. So it's kind of frustrating that she's nominated, especially when Kate McKinnon was pretty good. I mean, if you're going to nominate somebody, why not do Weird Barbie? She was fine. She wasn't amazing, but I think Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling are the centers of that movie, and I don't think anyone else in the supporting roles was really that good.
I wanted to shout out. Oh no, I'm forgetting his name. But the guy who played. Oh, is it Simu? I've forgotten his last name. The guy who was in Shang-Chi. Simu Liu. Yeah, I thought he was really fun. As a supporting character.
He didn't get much to do, but he was alright, hey?
Yeah, I just mean out of everyone there, he's the most memorable supporting character to me. Not in terms of being an amazing performance dramatically or anything, just he was a lot of fun, and I think he put a lot into that character, which was worth noting, I guess. Just getting sidetracked talking about the men in the other movies.
No, I know, yeah. I'm just saying. Like,
sorry, that's my fault. I brought it up.
I think Davine is winning.
Yeah.
Oh, she's winning it for sure. She's won everything else. She's won the SAG. She's won the Golden Globe.
Yeah.
So she's definitely going to win it.
So we've got actor in a supporting role, Sterling K. Brown, American Fiction, Robert De Niro, Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling for Barmy, and Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. This is one of the ones where, since it came out, everyone's been going Downey Jr., Downey Jr., Downey Jr., and I'm just like, to me, he was the least compelling part of the movie, and he was good. He was certainly good in the role, very convincing in that role. But I don't think he holds a candle to Mark Ruffalo in this competition. I feel like he's just the most interesting performance and gives the most of himself compared to Downey Jr. just doing a very serious character who plays himself very well. But that's kind of the whole character, and it's not really that different from what he's done in the past. Let's be honest, it's very good, but I think it's a bigger swing to go for Mark Ruffalo and point out that the other Avenger actually deserves it in this case, which I think is quite funny that they're competing in this. But I feel like, even though that's the thing, is like Mark Ruffalo, both of these characters actually are kind of like antagonist characters that you kind of despise. Mark Ruffalo, I hate much more than Robert Downey Jr.'s character. And a lot of that is just like how good he is at being the character he is.
I think part of that though is like Mark Ruffalo's performance is almost like theatrical in a way, right? Like it's more of like a performance that I would almost expect to see on stage, while Downey Jr.'s performance is more of a performance for the screen, and that it's understated. It's more of like an understated performance. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like that's kind of the difference between those two.
With this one though, it's hard because Mark Ruffalo, I think, is my favorite. Even though I don't even like the movie in general, probably overall, as much as I think I prefer Oppenheimer if I'm picking a favorite movie out of the two. But that's more for like story reasons. Like I fundamentally had a difficult time with the story of Poor Things more than anything else in it, even though I love the direction and everything as well. But Mark being my favorite, I think, doesn't necessarily mean he's the best or more than most likely. I could definitely be swayed to say Downey Jr. is more likely to win still.
We're not going to talk about Robert De Niro?
Yeah, but like, I just feel like he's just not really in the running at all.
Yeah, he's not really ever been in the conversation that I can think of.
Yeah, okay. I think it pisses me off a lot that Downey Jr. is going to win this, because I'm looking at these performances and I obviously, not counting American Fiction because I haven't seen it and it's not going to win anyway. But Robert De Niro is amazing as this like evil, like, just an evil guy, like scheming. He kind of like brings in like Leo with this like sense of like care and hope that is kind of there and kind of true. He definitely loves his family and wants to do right by his family and keep money flowing into the family. But there's something very layered about what he's doing. And while I wouldn't have him win anyway, I think he deserves to be in the conversation far more than Robert Downey Jr. does, who, in my opinion, does basically a non-performance. He walks in, looks kind of steely, does his lines, and that's that. It wasn't bad. It wasn't amazing. It was fine. It was all good. It suited the film. I get it. But, like, come on. Ruffalo's great. I don't think he's winning. I think it was a silly performance and a bit clownish in a good way, but I don't think that's the kind of thing that sticks with people. I think a far better example of a comedy performance that I think could win, and I would like to see win, is Ryan Gosling. And I can't believe I'm picking Barbie for so many things, despite having mixed feelings about it. But I think Gosling is by far the superstar of that film. I mean, he really brings his A game comedically. I think it perfectly works for his sense of humor and his sense of style as an actor. I think it's like, to me, that's like the gold standard of comedy performance, is when you can just steal the show like that and have people talk about your performance after the movie's over, despite it being funny, which isn't usually what sticks with people. And I think the fact that he's managed to like leave such a stamp on a movie that was marketed very, very much as a movie for, you know, not necessarily just for women, but by women, about women, etc. The fact that all the reviews came out from all these big publications being like, Ryan Gosling steals the show in Barbie, is, in my opinion, like a testament to how good he is in this. So like, I'm going to go with my heart and pick him anyway too. But
I don't know. I don't think the Academy will ever be forgiven if they award Ryan Gosling for Best Actor without even nominating Margot Robbie.
It would be so good. It would be so funny.
I think that's taking it a step too far in that time in terms of that conversation. I feel like it's unlikely that anyone, I don't know, I don't think most people in the Academy are going to think that Ryan Gosling was actually the best actor out of all of these. They respect him enough to say, yeah, that deserves a nomination because he was good and he did steal the show for that movie. The most are gonna, I think, go with Danny Jr. And hopefully quite a few with Ruffalo as well, only because I think he's great. I still can't decide who I actually want to predict, but I'd be very surprised if Gosling actually won. And the other side of it being that it's not a dramatic performance, and usually the more serious or dramatic roles get awarded, as opposed to a comedy actor. Not to categorize Gosling as a specifically only comedy actor, but I mean a comedy.
I know what you mean.
It's a comedy performance.
Character performance, yeah, I should say.
Yeah, I mean Downey Jr. is going to win this.
Yeah,
I'll be very surprised if he doesn't.
Such a bad choice.
Eh?
It's just such a bad.
I thought you were saying it was a bad choice for.
No. You're making the very right choice. It's just. It's just such like, it's really like, compared to three of the other performances there, it's just so nothing. Like, I just don't get it. I don't understand why it is so hype. Anyway,
are we doing actress or actor?
Oh, no, I haven't made my prediction yet, so I want to.
Oh, have you not picked? Sorry.
Just because I can't decide. Like, and I'm internally struggling between. I loved his performance. I think Mark had the most interesting performance, but I have to remind myself that, like I just said for Ryan, it wasn't extremely dramatic. It was more quirky and a little bit comedic, I guess. And would the Academy award that versus the more dramatic role? No, I'm going to predict it only because I agree with you, Mark. I don't see why they care so much about Downey Jr. Not to say he was bad, but just, yeah. I want to see them again do something different. I've already lost this race anyway. There's no point trying to make up for lost votes. So let's predict Mark Ruffalo.
I mean, Matt's winning. Let's be real. You're following the odds. You're gonna win.
I have some rogue picks.
You do. So the next category is actor in a leading role. The nominees are Bradley Cooper for Maestro, Coleman Domingo for Rustin. What the fuck is that? Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. Cillian or Cillian? Cillian Murphy.
I've always said Cillian.
I always say Cillian. Whatever. Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer and Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, Bradley.
Sorry, Bradley. You should be saying sorry to Paul Giamatti for giving the performances of his life and still not winning, because there's no way Cillian
he is
Murphy
like
doesn't win
he is a bit of like a always the bridesmaid, never the bride, eh? Giamatti. I feel like he doesn't ever have like an actor nomination in his hands like this. But it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know. Cillian's going to get it.
The wrong year, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't. It's Cillian Murphy's going to get it. He probably deserves it. He did a great job. He for such a long movie, being a character study like that, or at least somewhat of a character study, where you're such a central figure to the point where like the script is written in the first person, etc., which is a silly gimmick. I don't know why he did it, but whatever. Yeah, he deserves it. He's going to win.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, I really have it out for Oppenheimer today.
Yeah, Cillian's definitely, it's Cillian's category to lose. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely the like second best pick is definitely Giamatti. Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Giamatti.
He's definitely like the second pick, eh? Like if you were picking who the second pick is, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's that I feel like there's just not much really to talk about in this category because Cillian's gonna win it.
Yeah, I think like out of all the elements of Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy's the only thing that I didn't dislike in any way. So I think, you know, there are elements of the script, the editing, okay, maybe not the score, but directing thing. There are elements that we've talked about where I'm like, really good in this aspect, but kind of suffered a little bit on that. But Cillian Murphy, 100% greatness throughout the whole film, and probably carries the whole film. And I think for that reason, he has to win. Like he's the reason the film works as well as it does. Like even though there's so much on a technical level that obviously elevates Oppenheimer, he's still the heart and central piece of that, which is just sucks because I also love Paul Giamatti, and I've never seen him do a dramatic performance. I haven't really seen him in that many movies, but I feel like usually he's kind of a more off to the side or more comedic role. So yeah, I really have to shout him out. But yeah, Cillian definitely is winning, I think. I'd be happy to see Giamatti win, but I don't think it's likely.
Okay, so next up we have actress in a leading role. We have Annette Bening in Naiad, Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Hüller?
Yep.
We're going to go with that. Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan for Maestro, and Emma Stone for Poor Things.
What a category.
Good category. Okay, well, let's go through. Naiad's definitely not winning. Maestro's definitely not winning. For me, I'm going to be honest, as soon as I saw Killers of the Flower Moon, I thought Lily Gladstone was going to win it. Was going to win an Oscar.
Nice.
So that's right out the gate. That's my pick. I will say, I thought Emma Stone's performance was amazing. You know, obviously as, you know, because it's an interesting performance because it sort of starts off as like, you know, she's like playing a kid in an adult's body, which is like weird, but like she does it well, you know what I mean, in that first part of the movie, and then slowly as the movie progresses, she sort of like does, you know, like grow from being like a baby to like an actual woman. So you sort of have that progression through the movie, which is good. Because it's good not only in terms of like, you know, character arcs and that, but just also she does a good job from a performance element. So, you know, sort of the first part of the film being sort of this, you know, very weird, not like, I don't know if the right word to, but almost like body acting, you know what I mean? Like sort of using the body as a tool, which I feel like you don't really get that much. Or the only time you really get that sort of acting is purely in comedic purposes. Like you think of that body type acting in a comedic way, you know, Jim Carrey's the person who comes to mind the most.
Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah. And then, you know, later on in the film, it's sort of, you know, almost more like traditional acting. So it's kind of like a performance which kind of covers a much more vast array of different types of acting than your standard performance. So Emma Stone would kind of be like, oh, I would love to see her win it, but I do think I'm very glad that Lily Gladstone was nominated and is probably going to win it. Because I thought she was amazing in Killers. Yeah, and also of to note, she's the first Native American, I believe, to be nominated. So that's cool too. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I think out of these, like I would say Emma might be my favorite performance. And I might have predicted she would win if she hadn't already been an Oscar winner. I think.
Oh yeah, she won for La La Land, right?
Yeah, she won a few years ago, so the Academy probably takes that into consideration. I think it's definitely going to be Lily in this case.
All right. It's up to me to make the case for Sandra Hüller.
Yeah, okay. I knew you were going to bring it up. Yeah.
She's amazing in this movie. Like, there is... Oh, my God. And it's not just, like, the bilingual thing or whatever, you know. It's more than that. It's... The dialogue delivery in this movie, especially from her, is absolutely impeccable. It's hard to find people who can act this naturally. When she talks in the courtroom, the way that she kind of stutters and stops herself and starts herself again, there's this like real sense of believing what she's saying. She really fully embodies this person. And maybe it's not what like the Academy looks for, because it's not like, yeah, there's the big argument, but you know, it's what I take away from her performance isn't like big dramatic moments. It's just the fact that she is her. She is her. It's a very realistic performance. It's exactly how a human might act in that situation, especially somebody who feels like they might have something to hide. She's very ambiguous. She's so good. She's so good. Oh, man. And she's great in Zone 2. This is probably the better performance, but she's had a fucking hell of a year for having two films that are like that incredible that she kind of takes charge on and leads. She's really coming out of the woodwork as like a major person. I reckon America's going to snap her up and put her in stuff very soon because she's got a massive future. Whether she wins or not, I don't know. I feel like she deserves it, but I also feel like Lily Gladstone's great. I don't know if she's like Oscar winner great, but she's great. I loved her more in a film a few years ago called Certain Woman that she was amazing in. Emma Stone is kind of this like adaptive performance in this, you know. She really does have to, like, as Matt said, you know, change throughout and wear a different kind of hat as an actor at the beginning than she does at the end, and she does a really like believable job at slowly changing into somebody who at the very beginning was essentially an infant into somebody with their own thoughts and quirks and ideas and all of that. And I love that. I love that. And she might win, but I wanna bat for Sandra, so I'm gonna pick Sandra.
Nice. That's incredible. Like, yeah, you're right. Sandra is great at towing that line where like you don't know if she's telling the truth or not, which is just one of the best parts, I guess, about that movie. Yeah, and I think you're also right. I think Hollywood's gonna cast her in a lot of things. Hopefully not like in like blockbustery things, just in a lot of more like Hollywood dramas that'll probably be up for more contention later, and maybe she gets another nomination down the line.
She would have been? She would have been a great Lydia Tarr. Not as good as Cate Blanchett, but she would have been a good Lydia Tarr.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the thing about Tar is that I hated that character, and I don't think I can. I don't know if I can hate Sandra in the same way that I hated Blanchett. I don't know, but
okay,
yeah. But it's an interesting idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Yeah, I just feel like I don't know. Like Lily's performance is like, I guess you could say it's smaller. And a lot of it she spends like sick lying in bed, which I think, but like, I don't know, the fact that she just portrays it in a way that feels very, very believable. And if you didn't know Lily Gladstone, you wouldn't know that that's not kind of how she portrays herself, you know, in reality. And I think just that it's very transformative, I guess, performance. which is why I think it probably works so well, and why I think it's probably getting so much recognition. When you really put yourself in a character and you convince everyone that you're a real person who is completely different in many ways to your real self, I think it's just a very interesting, and that's probably why most people will look to her performance and vote for it.
Yeah, she kind of disappears into the role. In other words, like
yeah. It was funny. I didn't realize this until for some reason I went back and looked at it. But apart from seeing her in Certain Women, I've also seen her in a YouTube series from I've forgotten the name of the YouTube channel, but there's this YouTube channel that does really good like introduction on like what is filmmaking. They broke down all the different departments. There's a really good like introduction. I need to find what it's called actually. And it's funny because I actually I think I shared this very early on like our film school Facebook group. It's like, here's some interesting videos on filmmaking. I'm just gonna quickly Google it so I can tell you what it's called. Crash Course is the name of the YouTube channel. So they did a great course on just like breaking down a bunch of interesting things and explaining how filmmaking works in all the different departments. And she was just the host of this
cool
of this series, and she was kind of the one who talked about it. Like, she was already an actress, but she was a very, very small actress, hadn't done really that much at the time, I guess. So it's just a weird little connection. So yeah, it'd be really cool to see her on the stage winning one of those awards.
For sure.
So we're going official predictions. I'm doing Sandra.
Lily Gladstone.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
So last and certainly not least is the Best Picture. But I think before that, I wanted to talk a bit about what wasn't nominated at all in these awards in terms of snubs for the year. So open to all categories, but specifically in Best Picture, I'm shocked. There are 2 films in the year 2023 that I gave 5 stars on Letterboxd, and neither of them are nominated for Best Picture. The Iron Claw and All of Us Strangers, which I was begging Michael to watch at least one of these before. I don't know if you
still haven't, but I want to.
You haven't seen either.
I haven't seen either.
Here's the thing. Like, I've talked a bit about how I connect with movies personally on a personal level. A lot of that is emotion and emotional performances as well. And I think even though there's some really good stuff in the acting categories, what was missing, and a lot of what we just talked about, especially with the actors, the male actors, I feel like was strong emotional connections. And in both of these films have really, really strong performances from lead actors. Zac Efron, which you would have not expected, has come out and delivered a really, really amazing dramatic performance in The Iron Claw. And I think for me, both of those movies, I cried at the end of those movies, just in terms of the impact I think they left on me. And to be honest, I think All of Us Strangers is the best film of 2023, and I think it's crazy. I think it's crazy that it's not being recognized. In both cases, it's because they were released kind of later in the year, so they just didn't have as much time to, I guess, get that recognition. But I think that kind of sucks. That sucks a lot. And I don't think you can convince me that All of Us Strangers isn't actually the best picture of the year, despite not having the ability to be nominated for it. And a lot of that comes down to just a very, very, I don't want to talk about it too much because I just want you to watch it, a very, very interesting story, and on a filmmaking level, really, really beautiful and really well done. And I think everyone should watch this movie. It's amazing. Like, I think The Iron Claw is really good and everyone should watch it. Well, you guys should watch it. At least Michael, you should definitely watch it, being a wrestling fan as well. Just on a dramatic level, it's just really good. It's also pretty depressing. So, both of them are a little bit depressing in different ways. Warning for that side of things if that, if you don't like watching those kinds of movies. But both really emotional, potent, and All of Us Strangers just like pure cinema. More cinematic on a like artful, in like an artful way, then I would say any of the Best Picture nominees. Like just chef's kiss.
Yeah. Cool. I can't think of any like that were completely snubbed. Maybe a little while ago I might have gone to bat for David Fincher's The Killer a bit more, simply because I found that Fassbender did a really good job of kind of playing the cold, calculating guy, and I thought that the direction was really fantastic. I mean, I overall I think it's a great movie. So I'm kind of sad to see it not get nominated for anything at all, but I do understand it's like a pretty big year with a lot of really interesting and idiosyncratic movies that managed to get nominated. So it's hard to like be like, I really want to go to bat for this David Fincher thriller movie, because it's like we know what it is. The only thing I would like to see more of is May December. I feel like we're definitely missing out some like big performance stuff, especially for Julianne Moore, who I thought was absolutely fucking amazing in that movie. Natalie Portman was great. Todd Haynes is a fantastic director, and he really knows how to get under your skin. He's just a really special director, and he did something that I think was quite interesting psychologically and very subtle, that it just left you with a little bit of a sickness. When you left the theater. And I think, like, in general, I mean, I've seen this talked about online, and I kind of agree, so I'll shout it out here. I feel like there's a really interesting undercurrent of, like, this theme of, like, evil in a lot of the big movies this year, and the nominated movies this year. There's this real, like, undercurrent of, especially with May December, like Oppenheimer, Zone of Interest, a little bit of Killers of the Flower Moon, too. The sense of, like, evil is everywhere. And it spreads without you even really thinking about it. It's the whole banality of evil thing that's going on at the moment, where Oppenheimer is an evil man in a way, but he didn't really mean to be, because he didn't think about it in the way that maybe other people think about it now. He thought about it as a task, as a job. Yeah. Zone of Interest, very similar ideas. They thought about it as a task, as a job. They were evil without even really trying to be, but they just were, and it was normal. It was just part of their lives, And then on the other side of that, you can sort of see stuff like with May December, and maybe even a little bit of Anatomy of the Fall too, where like these things kind of just become woven into the fabric of these people.
I feel like it's very bold to call Oppenheimer evil. Like, I feel like like you could fundamentally agree.
I guess I would say that his actions are evil.
His actions, what he did was wrong. But to say that, because you can tell, and he has many conversations about it in the film, obviously, about like why it has to be done, And I think the arguments back about that subject are some of the most interesting parts of the movie as well. It's very interesting to point out the themes. So are you saying you were going into be saying there were snubs that were not evil?
I think May December should have gotten a lot more. Yeah, was my original point before I went off into whatever. But May December, specifically May December, I think should have been nominated for Best Picture and Best Director. But I'm happy with the nominees that they had, and I wouldn't want to take that away from some of the people that were there. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think the performances are the most interesting ones. Like, as you said, Julie Moore and Natalie Portman are really fantastic, and also,
I've forgotten his name.
I've forgotten his name. I need to learn
that guy.
That guy, the dude, Charles. Is it Charles?
Charles Melton.
Something.
Have you seen May December?
Charles Melton.
Highly recommend. What a movie. Yeah.
Charles Melton is plays such an interesting character, and I guess the story revolves around his experience. And the way he plays that is fantastic. So
just that little bit of unresolved trauma going on.
It's sad not to have any of them nominated, to be honest.
I mean, like, I feel like a lot was made in regards to snubs, like. A lot was made out of the snubs of Gerwig and Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to hear what you guys think of that.
You want to get into it?
From what I've picked up from what Garmi's been saying, he reckons Gerwig wasn't snubbed. But my question would be, do you think Robbie was snubbed for Best Actress?
I think neither of them was snubbed. I only because I just feel like yeah, it's important that Barbie is celebrating women, but because those people weren't nominated, this is kind of more in the Twitter sphere, and a lot of pop culture that doesn't watch a lot of movies, they're not celebrating the women who are nominated. Lily Gladstone, Emma Stone, Justin Trier. There are some really, really great. There's some really, really great work from a lot of women in these categories. It would be nice to maybe have more women directors, more than just one nominated. But I think the deserving directors were the ones who were nominated in this case. I think it's just we need to see more films directed by women. I think that's the root of the problem. And then, to say that Margot Robbie playing literally a plastic character, and she does it well for that character, but to say that she deserves that over any of the actresses that we talked about, in terms of the leading role ones, I'm actually, the only reason I am interested in seeing Maestro is because of what people have said about Carey Mulligan. And so, they're all kind of in the more dramatic realm, which I think are the ones that tend to be more deserving of those nominations. So I don't think Margot Robbie really missed out on anything. Just because it was a feminist movie doesn't mean you had to nominate her for it.
I mean, I think the thing is that you can... The thing I always say whenever someone says, oh, blank was snubbed, my question is always, okay, well, which one of the nominees do you take out and replace them with?
Yeah.
And most of the time they can't answer that, usually because they haven't seen all the movies. That's usually the reason.
Yep.
However, I will say I do think for actress, I think you could probably replace Annette Bening with Nyad.
Right. Well, you being the only one that has seen it, you do have the authority on that. So I guess...
mean, not because Annette was bad in it or anything, but I don't know. I feel like Robbie's kind of a better performance.
I think my thing is, to be honest, I don't really see any world where Margot Robbie gets nominated for in an acting role for this. I don't really understand why you would. I don't think she gives anything that screams Oscar performance. I don't think she screams anything beyond, she did a good job in this movie, and she did. But you should. That doesn't mean you get an Oscar nomination just because you were in a movie that gets nominated for a lot of Oscars. Right. It's you have to be able to bring something to the table that's really special, and I don't think she really did. She was funny, but was she the most impactful part of the movie? No. Does Greta deserve a directing nomination? Maybe. It was pretty good directing, but I don't really see why you need to or why you should. If we want to start expanding this to being, more women filmmakers in Hollywood, then absolutely. But at the same time, Barbie was the biggest movie of the year. We're getting to the stage now where you are starting to see women rising to the top in Hollywood and giving these opportunities. And just because one of them didn't get nominated for Best Director is not the downfall, of the Academy as a voting body that's legitimate, as Twitter would have you believe.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it was a massive movie. It made a fuck ton of money. Yeah. It was critically well received. There's a lot of great stuff and memes and memorable moments that will be remembered until the end of time that came from this movie. And just because Greta Gerwig didn't get nominated for Best Director while making a fucking $1 billion doesn't really mean anything. It was a well-directed movie, but there were 5 other people who did better.
And above, even if you added a 6th nominee to both directing and actress, I wouldn't give it to either of them. I'd give it to Greta Lee and Celine Song for Past Lives. That's the thing. That's the problem, is that as I said when we were talking about directing, man, Celine should have been nominated, and that's not because I even pointed out that there was a lack of women directors. It's just the fact that she was a great director.
It was just a good director,
And the thing is that everyone else wanting to complain about these things, if you just broadened your scope and seen more movies, you might have seen that too, and you would be fighting for Celine rather than just fighting for Barbie just because it's Barbie, I think it's just the nature of Oscars getting a lot of publicity, and people who look at that news, the majority of people just don't watch most of Oscar-nominated movies, so that's all they're going to talk about. It's just kind of the nature of that. That's just how the conversation happens, which is
so it's quite common. It's quite common as well for people to go popular equals good.
Yeah,
a lot of the time, like people think that. Like you get the same thing with like with Marvel films and stuff as well. Like Endgame, people were saying Endgame should have been nominated back in the day. I'm pretty sure I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But like same thing. Yeah. Just because it's the number one film at the box office doesn't mean it's the best film of the year. Those two things aren't.
Yeah, and you can't expect like a voting body of industry people to just be like, we want to give it to the thing that made the most money.
Yeah.
If anything, that'll cause some resentment with people. So
yeah, and I think it's also funny with the whole controversy with it as well is that you've got performances from Lily Gladstone, for example, who's a Native American woman, and that's not being like celebrated, but a white woman misses out. Yeah, and then everyone loses their mind. You know what I mean? Like,
it's all very Twitter. It's all so Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it matters. I don't think anyone's still talking about it. It was just one of those things that sort of popped up and came and went, and then people realized maybe we should be talking about the people that are there.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the people who get pissed off at that stuff are just don't watch enough movies.
It's not the Oscars without something like that happening. Yeah. Like, the real problem is when Green Book wins Best Picture. Then we'll talk about the Academy sucking. But for right now, it's like, a bunch of great nominees this year. It's a really good fucking year for the Oscars. Like, it's great.
And speaking on the great list of nominees, shall we make the final decision on Best Picture?
Yeah. Yes.
What are the nominees?
American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, The Zone of Interest. And out of these, I mean, I'm guessing we're probably all going to tip the most logical route being you'd be crazy to say Oppenheimer isn't going to win this, just purely on the technical level. It just, as we were kind of saying before, all those technical elements just push it right to the top. And I think since it came out, it's been the front runner.
Yeah.
Is that the whole conversation?
No, there's conversations to be had.
I thought Michael was going to come out swinging for Zone of Interest.
Mate. Okay, here's the thing. If we pretend that it's a little bit more of an equal playing field, I think that you can make a lot of arguments for a lot of movies. I think Barbie legitimately has a shot, and I still think it legitimately has a shot at winning, and I think people aren't thinking about it very much, and you never know.
Remember Moonlight a couple years ago?
Yeah, but Moonlight had a shot. Like Barbie is the kind of pop culture phenomenon that could do it. I'm not saying that it should, I'm not saying that it will, but it could.
Yeah.
Zone of Interest is the kind of movie that you walk away and it lingers, and I think that means something for a lot of people. I think it's a movie that, if you were lucky enough to see it in a movie theater, really, really, really sticks. And I would like to hope that there are enough people that it would at least end up near the top of the ballot for a lot of people. But, I think we all know what's actually going to win.
Yeah, I mean, Oppenheimer's going to win. Okay, here's a question. What's everyone's second place pick?
Like, if you were to... Do you mean, like, if you actually looked at the poll and you saw what people...
In a world where Oppenheimer is struck from the ballot, what are you picking?
Well, my favorite out of all of these, anyway, even my favorite above Oppenheimer, is Past Lives. It's just my favorite movie on this list. And I think it's strong enough. I don't think it's had enough nominations in other categories to kind of carry enough weight into Best Picture, but I think I wish it had more weight going into it, and because I think overall, for me, it's a more impactful film than any of these others. However, if I was doing like a head prediction of what I actually think the Academy has voted for, like in second place, I would I'm a little stuck between Anatomy of a Fall and Zone of Interest. I would probably say if it was a legitimate vote and Oppenheimer wasn't in the picture, I would probably place my prediction on Zone of Interest.
Yeah, I think I'd probably put Barbie there.
Really?
But I would like it to be but I would like it to be Zone
That's
of
crazy.
Interest.
Because I mean, for Zone of Interest, I feel like it's the one that has the most, I guess, weight to it on an emotional level, like in a way that is relatable, not necessarily relatable, sorry, but will come across very clearly to everyone watching it. Everyone will feel the weight of that film. Whereas, not everyone can relate to Past Lives, in the way that maybe I can. And I think it's kind of laughable that Barbie is nominated, honestly, at all for Best Picture, especially when, as I said, there are a couple other films which I'm just, very sad we're not nominated. I think Barbie's just like, oh, it's the real popular one. It's got a few nominations on the technical stuff, so we'll put it in Best Picture, as well.
Yeah, it's also got a support. It's got a supporting actress nomination and a supporting actor nomination.
Neither of which I care that much for. So I think it's got the nomination for the cultural impact more than anything else. So, but I'd also be very surprised if it legitimately got the second most amount of votes. I guess I don't know what it's going to be like. Like, what percentage of votes do you think Oppenheimer has? Do you think it will get
are people putting it as their number one? Yeah.
I think easily more than 50% have put it as number one, and it'll get the win for that. But I think realistically, it could be a lot higher. It could be close. It could be 70% of people voting for it. I mean, I just feel like it stands out so strongly above the rest. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like out of the Best Picture nods, I feel like Barbie's my favorite. Just because it was, controversial take. But no, it was the one I had the most fun with. You know what I mean? I just had fun with it. It had a lot of joke. A lot of its jokes landed, and I feel like those types of movies where you watch a movie and you just have fun with it. We almost or at least I feel like I don't really get that much when it comes to movies. You know what I mean? There's a lot of comedies that come out these days that are just not very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this was a case where it was one that was good. Yeah, so I mean that's probably why it was my favorite. In terms of a second pick, I can see Poor Things doing well.
Interesting. I don't know. I'm sort of starting to reconsider.
Yeah, I mean a big part of that is because it's the second most nominated film.
Yeah,
it had 11 nominations. Versus Oppenheimer's 13, just from a pure numbers game.
It did well in those design ones for sure.
Yeah,
I think I'm starting to reconsider. I think I'm going to put Zone as my second.
Oh yeah,
or Anatomy of a Fall, because didn't Anatomy of a Fall get a fucking editing nomination or something insane? Or what was it? Yeah, it got an editing nom. It's just kind of these wild categories piling up for Anatomy of a Fall, where you just wouldn't expect it to be. The directing nomination is a big surprise for Anatomy, and I'm I love that movie and I love the directing and I think it deserves it, but it's just a interesting choice for a directing nomination. So I'm wondering if that's a sleeper. I mean, I know it at Cannes Film Festival. I mean, I know that's just decided by a small jury, but that won the top prize at Cannes compared, and that was in competition with Zone of Interest.
Oh, true.
Which is a fucking impactful movie, and Anatomy won. So maybe there's something specifically in a voting body, an academy of actors and filmmakers and stuff that draws them to that movie more than it does for maybe the general public. I'm gonna go Anatomy of a Fall as my number 2.
Maybe a lot of them have marriage problems and can relate.
Yeah, they can relate to
wanting to murder your spouse.
Wanting to throw them out of a balcony.
Allegedly.
They were like, God, I wish that were me.
Well, and so Matt, did you have a second? Oh, you said Barbie. Yeah.
No, I said Barbie is my favorite. Second pick would probably be Poor Things, I reckon, just because it's the second most nominated. Cool. That's our Oscars predictions. Done and dusted.
It's been a very fun conversation that has lasted longer than the longest movie that was nominated. Um,
How long have we been going? 3.5 hours.
Well, my recording's been 3.5 hours. Yeah. I'll try and slim it down a little bit. But it's been a very fun conversation. Thank you. And I thank you for having it with us, and thank everyone else for joining in. I reckon we'll quickly do a quick fire of
what you doing?
What you gonna be doing? Just to, I don't know, do a little refresh of what's going on, what you've been up to, what you're watching, and all of that kind of stuff that stood out to you, recently, and anything in particular you're looking forward to. I
mean, most of the stuff I've been watching was just preparing for the Oscars, so just watching Oscar nominated movies. So we've kind of already covered all that. Weirdly enough, at the moment, currently watching Law and Order, the original Law and Order. I'm up to about season 11. So I'm watching that at the moment. It's pretty good. I have to keep taking a break though, because it's like it kind of gets samey after a while.
Yeah.
But it does have like very much a recurring cast. And it's only relatively recently, I think it's in season 9 or season 10, where the last guy from the original cast finally left the show. So I've been watching that. Other stuff I've been watching, I've actually been watching a lot of like sports highlights, because there's a lot of sport going on at the moment. Super Rugby's kicked off, got Six Nations going on. And then you also had 2 football championships, which wrapped up like a month ago, which was the AFCONs and the Asian Cup. The AFCON is mental because it's the best teams in Africa that play in it. But the amount of upsets that happened across that tournament was mental. So it was really cool just seeing teams that you wouldn't expect to do well to win. In terms of things I'm looking forward to, I've got 2 movies I need to see because they're currently out, is Drive Away Dolls and June Part 2 is on my list of movies to watch. So hopefully I'll be able to squeeze them in before uni gets too hectic.
Yeah, nice. I saw Drive Away Dolls a couple of days ago. It's
sweet.
A lot of fun. It's
nice.
A lot of fun. You'll have a good time, I think. What else have I seen? I wanted to point out that I went to see Soul, which for the first time played in cinemas, which was really, really cool, and just makes me so angry at how they didn't put it out in any theaters when it first came out. But really, really glad I got the opportunity to. Also, just the fact that they didn't really market it locally very well at all. I found it like it was in a flyer as part of a newsletter got sent by an independent theater. Like by chance that I saw that it was playing, and by chance that I was available to see it, because it didn't have very many show times. It was like in an afternoon, like during the week. So really, really glad I got to see it. It was amazing, really, really good movie, and kind of one of those movies that can actually affect your perspective on life itself. Like literally, I feel like it does that for me. And now, and having rewatched it, I'm like, God, I need that refresher, and I feel like I'm gonna need that like every couple of years. I'm gonna need to rewatch this movie to like remind myself of that movie. Also, the live action Avatar series premiered last week.
Oh yeah.
Which we've been talking about since, on the podcast since the news was first announced. I'm pretty sure we talked about it here. And I overall really, really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I think it's kind of sad how many fans are like hating on it, because there are some major changes that do fundamentally change a few things. There's only one change in the whole series that I feel like is actually detrimental to the story, but everything else I thought was really interesting. I enjoyed a lot of the surprises that they gave us and the way they melded some stories together. I think overall the direction's a bit lacking and unclear, and I felt like they didn't spend enough time just developing the characters with the actors, because the actors just, I feel like, didn't know what they were supposed to do with these characters, and especially for child actors. I don't think the actors are bad. I think they all showed a lot of promise, but I think that they need more clear direction, and I think that just wasn't there. And I think that's just the age of corporate mush. These big corporations making these things, these kind of things, I guess, fall off the shelf because they just, I guess, focus so much on the visual effects and production design, which were pretty good as well. But yeah, a lot of the script was just a bit ham-fisted in some ways and just kind of felt awkward at times. But like overall, I think it's just because I had an existing connection to the animated series, I just felt really emotional in some points and just overall just really enjoyed being in that world again and seeing a different interpretation of it, which is why I'm really interested to see what they do next, because I think the next season they're going to do some things that are going to continue to be different, but I'm excited to see that because I want to see how they kind of make it work. And I have to shout out Zuko. The interpretation of Zuko in this series, I think, is even better than the original first season of the show. I loved Zuko in this live action series, so big shout outs to, her name is Dallas Liu, I believe, plays Zuko. He did a really, really good job. And then upcoming, I'm about to go see Dune. I'm seeing it in less than 2 hours. It's playing at 11 p.m. at IMAX.
Hey!
They're playing it like constantly all weekend. So I'm really excited for that. I was pretty unconvinced by the first movie, but I saw this trailer for this one in IMAX, and I'm convinced that it's going to be at least a very entertaining spectacle, if nothing else. So it's worth going to see. So that's why I'm excited to go see it tonight.
As for me, I mean, I've been doing similar things, just trying to catch up a little bit, but I didn't really get that much catching up, so I only ended up seeing Barbie. But that was all right. That was okay. It was entertaining-ish. Other than that, I haven't been doing too much in the way of watching things or anything like that. I've been streaming a little bit when I can on Twitch. That's been really fun. Played a little bit of Life is Strange 2, which is really fun. I'm going to be doing some more of that tomorrow. And what else has been happening? What have I been watching or listening to? Oh, 2 new Vampire Weekend songs came out. I don't know if you guys know Vampire Weekend much. But they've just released a couple new tracks, which are really, really phenomenal, fantastic, really interesting choices throughout. So that's about it. That's all I've been consuming.
Shout yourself out. Shout your Twitch. What's your name on Twitch?
My name is Garmy Garms on Twitch. That is GARMY GARMS on Twitch.
Nice.
Cool.
I totally forgot to even mention it. I've also been doing a little bit of streaming. A lot less consistent than Garmy has, but yeah, it's been fun. It's just something I occasionally do on the weekends. I'll play some City Skylines or Mario, or I did some Fortnite and Overwatch as well. That's been fun. It's an entertaining way to, I guess, give myself more of a reason to just play video games. So that's been fun as well. And my name on there is just Skippy Williamson, which is a old nickname I was given in high school, and for some reason I made that my gaming username, and it's just been stuck like that on Twitch. So that's why that's my name on Twitch now.
Also, I forgot to mention, I've been occasionally making YouTube videos on my personal channel. You can find me on just Matthew Bullock. I make random stuff just all over the place. So yeah.
I loved the what's the one you had to guess all the countries, and I was so impressed how many countries you were able to name. You named half the countries of the world, right? I can't do probably more than 20 or 30, honestly. So that was very impressive.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, it's been a lovely time talking with you all. It's been great just catching up, I guess, in general.
Yep.
And we'll see you the next time we see you.
Yeah, that's it. We'll see you next time. I've been Matt.
I've been Michael.
I've been you. I was gonna do it, and you interrupt. Doesn't matter. I've been Ben. Thanks so much for listening.
Bye. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
Whenever that is.